Welcome to your nightmare, bitch. It's time for another exciting episode of Hey, did you see this one, bitch?
Oh my gosh,
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. That's crazy. That if you were here for our lead up to this episode, we totally had to do that like 4 times. And in the history of the show, we've never actually had to do
have
multiple
Steve do the
takes.
intro.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could have. We just never did.
That's-
Also, Steve, you said "yeah" just fine.
Well, that's because Freddy wouldn't say you.
If you don't know what we're talking about, we're going through some branding stuff right now, and we want to change it all over to "Hey, did you see this one?" But we're allowed to say, "Hey, did you see this one?" Anyway, welcome to the show this week. We're talking about Freddy Krueger 3. That's the name of the movie, and your host this week is Kaylin.
Woo! 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 Thank you. Yes, that is right. I will be your host this week, joined by my fellow co-hosts, Jason and Steven, and we are taking a look through the Grimoire of Familiar Killers. What is this, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? What is this, chapter 11, I guess?
Yeah, 12, chapter 11, yes.
Yeah. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Into the fire!
And as we always do, we like to start things off with our first memories, first feelings from seeing this movie. Steven, would you do us the honor of sharing with us your first memories of this movie?
Well, much like my other previous entries into the Grimoire of Familiar Killers, this was seen when I was doing the marathon watch-throughs in my teenage years of horror movies that were made either before I was born or when I was very young and too scared to watch them. And I don't have a solid memory of it, but I do have more clear memories of this one than I did for some of the other installments, particularly because this is the movie where they fight back in their dreams. They have dream powers, and that's pretty cool to me. Freddy Krueger has always been sort of omnipotent in the dream world up until this point, so I like that these kids are able to fight back with dream powers. Even though the second movie is kind of like non-dreamy, it's more possessing and weird stuff. But this one starts to lay the groundwork, the rules. And that's the one thing that kind of stood out to me thinking back to the first time that I watched it. I was like, wait a minute, you can like manifest magic powers and flying and, you know, if you're an idiot, just a cool hairdo and some knives.
I have some nitpick about those rules, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
Well, this is the one that starts to lay the groundwork for the rules. It's not like full ironclad rules, because the Freddy movies don't have those, bitch. But I think that's all I really have to say. I don't have like a set in stone memory of watching this for the first time, but I have watched it a number of times since then, and I've always had sort of an affinity for this one and the rule building and sort of the lore extension that it provides for us. But I'll pass it on to whomever you choose to be the next in line, bitch.
So many options to choose from. But thank you for sharing with us.
Sorry.
What are you shitting? Are we not recording?
Yeah, no, we are. I hit a button and I'm trying to... Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. This is our producer, Jason. Holding it down for us behind the boards, as well as in front of the camera. And why don't you tell us about your first memories of this lovely tale?
I was too scared to watch this movie as a kid, so I watched it yesterday. But what I will say
What I will say about this movie is 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock the door. 4, 5, crucifix. 5, 6, crucifix, or whatever.
6, 7.
You're gonna
break it down in heaven, bitch.
As a kid, I distinctly remember. I think I mentioned this after one of the other ones we did. How these fucking movies got a stranglehold on these, like, on the rural latchkey kids, the ones that were allowed to watch it. So they would be coming to school and saying all the things from the movie. And I distinctly remember this one being very popular amongst the 8 and 9-year-olds who were allowed to watch that.
This one's got boobies in it.
Those movies, they're fantastic. Those are the nicest set we've seen in a movie yet. But the thing is like, it's so fucking...
I agree.
Listen, I'm an aficionado of the sport.
They were fake.
Yeah, those were definitely big fake titties.
My point here is that the era sort of made it scarier when you would see these kids talking about these movies, because not only was I too scared to watch it myself, but you realize that these, like, other 8 and 9-year-olds are so hardcore that they're watching Freddy Krueger murder.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have so many of that same sort of instance of being scared of something without even actually being threatened to have it shown to you. You're like, I'm scared of you just talking about this. Stop. Unlike
the other ones where I'm pretty sure that if I saw, like, the first Child's Play young... Maybe this is actually, you know what? I watched the most unscary movie ever. I think I mentioned it on the show, but I watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is negative scary. It's actually a hard comedy, like, both in that it's written funny, and also that it's comically bad.
Accidentally?
Yeah. It's like, it's meta hilarious. That was too scary for me, and I did watch it. So maybe I am giving myself a little bit too much credit. But this movie would have this would have broken my brain, because the special effects in this are leaps and bounds. Like, there was money put into the practical effects in this, and some of the stuff, like the sinew puppet part, like, I was like, ugh. I have this thing with gore where, like, I can't look directly at it if it's actually affecting my, like, my empathy. Like, if I start getting that quease, I have to look away. And that sinew puppeteer, actually, I got close to being like, I can't look at this. But then I was like, I want to know.
You can almost feel it in like the inward parts of your fingers, like the way he's like you would imagine it would probably make your hands start to, like, move, like something pulling on that, and your hands start to get uncomfortable.
The pit of my stomach too, right? So, as far as my first time...
There was no sinews coming out of his stomach. Why that affected?
Because I'm get queasy.
Because your stomach is your second brain. That's why.
Yeah. So, we're going to move right past that.
And your butt is your third brain.
It's true. My penis
my favorite.
Also my third brain. So, I put my... No, don't finish that. I want to just let everybody know that I'm putting up the old episodes from the Instagram days with just me and Kaylin, and we go on a tirade for about 6 minutes about cum. So if you want to go check that out, check it out. It's not great.
I don't remember that.
Neither of us did till I watched all of it in its entirety today, and could not look away. It's entertaining. We're very entertaining individuals. We're enhanced with Steve. Conversation starts when Steve joins the show. Then it was just us saying things. Anyway, that's my little side tangent. That's my history of this movie. I watched it yesterday, and I fucking enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Also, I forgot to mention at the top of the episode, warning, the following program contains coarse language and rewind. Warning, the following program contains mature subject matter and coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Perfect.
There you go. Take 2. He got it on take 2, ladies and gentlemen.
Usually it's take 3.
Yeah, I tried 3 takes of opening the show and I couldn't get it. We're comedy.
I got it on take 1, and then you didn't record it, so I had to do it again.
Well, I did record it. I just didn't do the right sequence of buttons.
Events. All right, cool.
Which brings us to myself. So I mentioned before, for most of these movies, my first time was, I think, 2 years ago, around the height of COVID, and decided to check out these old classics that, growing up, weren't my cup. Not to say that I was scared per se, it just wasn't something that I found enjoyable.
All right, we get it, Kaylin. You're brave.
Yeah, you're
Jesus
hardcore and
Christ.
brave. And everybody loves you, and you're so handsome. And I would be
None of
your
those things are
boyfriend
true.
if we lived in the same city.
But I do have an interesting rewatch experience. So I rewatch. So for this week's episode, I watched it first on Sunday and then again last night. On Sunday, when I was watching it, it was late at night. I had a little bit of medicine, and it kind of made it like an interactive movie, because like I was like fighting not to sleep and they were fighting not to sleep, and it was like I was a part of the movie. It was awesome.
Sorry, can I just interject with something? Last night I was like, I'm gonna hit my my medicine vape, and
Yeah.
I almost did it, and then I was like, you know what, if I hit that, I'm gonna fucking freak, because this movie is like good. Steve's actually getting nightmare murder right now. Did you make it? Did you get it? Did you kill the
Someone
dream?
just touched my genitalia.
Well, that's not Freddy, that's Freaky.
That's freaky.
Freaky Krueger.
It's me, Freaky, and I'm coming for your genitalia in your sleep.
He's just so gay. Just like
No, he's not. He goes for everybody's
Freddy?
genitalia.
well, you did it.
Well, I mean, he does go after Joey first.
You did a stereotype voice there. Though,
Actually, I guess he
Steve.
didn't go after him first, but
You did the B-52's lead singer voice, which is like,
I'm coming for your genitalia.
everyone had matching dicks.
Okay. All right.
also shout out to Penis Freddy. That comes up later. We'll get to that. So quick little rundown of this movie, though.
I
don't
just
know,
sometimes
I don't
don't
know.
know what the fuck's going on.
I
in
get
this
what he
podcast.
says. I don't know if it was.
You know what I'm
it's more
talking
of a
about.
Snake, but okay.
You know what I'm talking about, bitch.
Tentacle or just a really long neck.
When you mean when he's like a big snake and he comes in and he looks like a big cock? Yeah.
He looks like a big veiny phallus.
Okay, well, you see what you want to.
Yeah.
In a Rorschach painting.
You can say dick on the podcast. It's fine. Or cock even.
Or
if you want.
penis.
I know. I said the warning at the
Or
beginning.
wiener. That's my favorite one.
But yes, we're back for the
Wiener.
third installment of Freddy's Nightmares, but this time, as Steve said, our heroes have the ability to fight back. We are introduced to Kristen and her mother. She's having bad nightmares and has a bit of an episode in the bathroom and gets sent to the loony house.
Well, what do
Is
you
that
guys think
appropriate?
about the opening credits? Like the ding, 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 ding.
The New
And,
Line
like,
Cinema logo, the red and black New Line Cinema logo. I like when I first saw that, I'm like, oh man, this like it was awesome. Like,
wait
I
till
don't
you
even
see
think-
Freddy versus Jason when it's like the ladder or the film reels flying and it just like goes from purple to red and you're like, oh my god, this
That
is
sounds cool.
sick.
The
Yeah.
New Line Cinema logo as a kid was like, there's a couple of those like
Ninja
logos
Turtles.
that were super exciting. You knew
Yeah.
you were
The
about
Mask.
to watch a banger. Yeah, but like
that's the tone.
the opposite.
Actually, I
of it-
believe the man who directed this movie also directed The Mask.
The-
Just in case you were wondering.
that's awesome.
That's pretty
I
awesome.
can see that. The opposite of that though is now when the Sony logo comes up, I'm like, ugh. So
Yeah.
Good or
Platinum
bad?
Dunes. I get mad at Platinum Dunes because I always are like, this movie's opening in a desert? What the fuck? And then I'm like, oh no, they're just playing the music of the movie over the Platinum Dunes logo.
oh,
I kind of like the Scott Free one with the guy running away and then flying into a bird or whatever.
Yeah, that's because you're about to watch a good movie because it's directed
Yeah, I
by
thought that's what we
Ridley
were talking about. I
Scott.
thought we were talking about logos that are preparing us for a good movie.
fuck me up with this. Fuck me up with
Sure.
the A24 logo, and I know that it's gonna be a banger. The Cinema One. Was it Cinema One?
E1, Entertainment One.
Yeah, one of them is like, this is gonna be hit or miss. But
Oh,
New Line,
Sabian or whatever. You see
No, no,
Sabian,
no.
you better run for the hills, boy.
it's like Cinema One or Movie One.
What's the river one with the R? Riverside or something?
Arr, pirate movies.
My apologies. My apologies. Back to the arm tracks. Back to the arm tracks. So,
Ew.
no, is that not the tracks code?
I don't like that you're using that, but okay, it's fine. It works.
After that whole
Only
movie
for
about a
this
junkie,
episode.
yeah, with her fucking, oh my god, those tracks were amazing.
They were like
dude.
mouths just like fiending for it.
Give me the blue juice.
I want the blue juice in my arms. Also, she was the worst actor that I've ever seen in my entire life.
I don't know, man. Nancy's pretty fucking bad.
Nancy, if you watch New Nightmare, Nancy actually fucking kills it in that one. Where you're like, wow, you became a good actor somehow.
Like, there's like multiple years in between. I remember her being passable in the first movie, but in this, she's like,
No.
I am now trying to act.
She's not passable in the first one.
Okay,
You're
really
misremembering.
I think it's just because she was young and stuff, so it was easier to kind of overlook.
She gets better. I watched New Nightmare as well this week, and she is actually quite good as an actor in that movie. And you know, she doesn't act anymore. And I think she married like a special effects artist or something, so she still like lives in the industry and she does like cameos and stuff here and there, but like she doesn't need to really work. I think she made enough money off of these movies that she's like I just want to live.
She's like a shopkeeper in Sharknado or some shit like that.
No, she was in the Star Trek movie. Like her husband is like a very prolific special effects
artist. She's in real movies as bit parts.
Films, if you will.
Films. Sorry, the makers of Sharknado 1 through 8 or whatever. I didn't mean to call your movie not a real movie, but
I'm sure that they know that it's not a real movie. It's a bank that you put that are images.
Some money pinata that you smash and get a little bit of money out every 3 years.
Every time, yeah, you get more money than you paid for the pinata for. You're like, this pinata is worth this much, but there's probably way more inside of it.
It's keeping Tara Reid alive.
I thought she
sedated.
Was
yeah, I was gonna say.
Is she still doing stuff? I thought she was
keeping her sleepy looking.
I think she's the main character in all of them. She's like the main actor in all of the Sharknado movies. If I could be mistaken.
That's too bad.
Well, they're not great movies, Kalen.
All right, let's get back to the arm tracks, as Kalen would say.
Yeah,
exactly. Now, Steven, you might not be able to speak to this, but Jason,
I can speak at it.
Patricia Arquette, aka Kristen, kind of reminded me of Sabs. Not so much reminded me of Sabs, but like she kind of like just the look of her kind of reminded me of Sabs.
Sabs is a bartender we used to work with and a dear friend.
Something that all of our listeners will definitely know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I will say I can speak to that, Caleb, because my wife, who also nobody here will ever know or see unless she comes on the show.
Is she imaginary? I'm just joking.
She's imaginary, yeah. She
comes to me only in my dreams.
Bitch. She walked into the room while I was watching it and she goes, "Do you think that I look like a young Patricia Arquette?" And I was actually kind of like, yeah. So
a little bit.
That.
Is she strawberry blonde?
Yeah.
Or blonde?
To answer the question from before too, Tara Reid plays she plays April Wexler in 5 Sharknado movies. And then out of 6, I don't think the 6th one is out yet. But the funny thing, the reason I'm even bringing this up, because there's a funny thing. She played a character called Billie Jean between Sharknado 4 and 5 in a movie called Trailer Park Shark. So she
was there a shark in it?
She put out 3 shark movies between 2016 and 2017. So that gives you a little bit of insight on the kind of quality that we're working with here.
I mean, that's kind of
Steve,
impressive.
wake up! You're gonna get freaked.
He's gonna kill you.
This time he came for my bum bum.
I'm gonna get your bum bum. It's me, Freaky.
Everyone had matching bums.
Okay,
that's not true.
Let's get back on track here about the movie we're talking about. Why are we talking about Tara Reid? She's not in this.
She's not even in this.
I don't know.
But so we open with Kristen and her mother. Her mother's got a date. Doesn't have time for her daughter.
So at this point in the movie, I'm like, oh, they're like trashy people. Like I thought they were gonna be like poor and like the mom is like kind of a, for lack of a better term, whore.
You could have said Jesus Christ, Steve. I was
sorry,
going to say floozy and I felt
a loose lady. I don't know. She's just looking for a man's warmth at night or some shit. But I mean, all those things are still true. But she's rich. They have like a giant house and a housekeeper named Teresa who you never see.
Maybe she got a good settlement.
Settlement from what?
Well, there's no father in the picture, so
Yeah, he probably died.
that's what I'm saying. Maybe she got a good settlement.
Well,
Actually,
he
he did die. We know this
Yeah.
because she talks about it in the movie.
He helped murder Freddy Krueger.
He's a Krueger murderer.
He's a
Right,
Krueger.
but I'm saying
He's
maybe
a
the mom got
Krugerer.
good settlement. That's why they're okay.
It's not a
living in-
settlement, man. It's an inheritance. When someone dies and they're your husband, you get their money. They don't.
They have a
take
good
it from you.
insurance plan or whatever.
Yes. There's nothing that you're saying is incorrect except for settlement. But
I object.
what I'm saying is they are rich. There's no need to
Are they
go any
rich,
further
or are
deeper
they
into
just,
the
like,
lore of why they're
Middle
rich.
class.
Well, I'll tell you exactly.
Their house is huge, and they have a housekeeper named Teresa that
yeah,
we
but
never
think
see.
about it. Think about it. It's 1988. Houses
Okay.
costed $50 to $150K.
No, they cost like a picnic basket full of ham sandwiches back
Yeah.
then, I think.
They cost one of those picnic baskets.
Yeah, was that a callback to Return to
from
Oz?
Wizard of Oz. Return to Oz.
I'm trying to say that my parents both had shit jobs in the 80s and were able to buy a house like
Exactly.
easily.
Exactly.
And I have a pretty good job right now, and I cannot afford to live in anything better than the shitty apartment I live in.
My wife makes double what I make, and I make pretty good money. And we have when we move into our condo, we're gonna be house poor for a while till we.
But everyone's house poor when they first get a new house.
True, but like we make.
Are we in a
like-
Freddy Krueger nightmare right now? He's
We
gonna be
make-
like,
Did you file your tax return, bitch?
That's gonna be the next one.
and he's got a bunch of stamps on his finger, like he's like stamping paperwork.
I do.
Oh no, I
sometimes
was late
wonder
with my taxes.
what the fuck is going on.
How long did it take you guys to figure out it was paper mache?
I knew immediately.
As soon as she started sticking her hands in it and like putting it on the newspaper, I was like, oh, she's gooping up a
So the newspaper
project, a
Basically, when you see
craft
the
project.
newspaper.
Yeah, I thought it was a cake at first. Yeah,
Around this time,
Yeah, batter or whatever.
when I was a kid, a couple years later than this, they made us make paper mache shit all the time.
I know, right? Why?
All
Yeah,
the
also-
time.
And I am the kind of person, I think I've told you guys before, I hate when people like slurp on their fingers. And one thing that people will never do is slurp on their fingers if they're eating something that is not saucy with their hands. So I hated paper mache when I was a kid because everyone's just like gooey hands, and I'd be like walking around being like, what do I do? How do I get this off me?
And you
I
start
don't like
slurping
it."
your fingers.
No, I didn't start slurping my fingers. I would get upset until I would like sometimes I would cry when I was little enough. I was like, I don't like it. My hands are gross and gooey. Yeah, I was a weird kid, but
Maybe you
before
need
we
more
had-
newspaper.
This is before we had modern psychiatry, so they just thought you were a weird little kid, but really you had problems you probably should have explored with a therapist.
yeah, probably. And I'm slowly figuring that out now in my adult
30
life.
years later.
Yeah. 35 years later, Steve talked to his psychiatrist, and they said, "Oh, the reason you didn't like gooey fingers was this, this, and this." And I went,
That actually explains a lot of other things, too.
ding, ding. Yeah.
That's right, folks. Mental health is real. Mental health is important. Make sure you take care of your mental health. If you need to see a therapist, there's options. They're there to help. Sometimes you might need to go through a couple before
Are we
you find the
sponsored
right
by
one.
BetterHelp this week? I didn't know.
Apparently. That sounded like literally they ad read that on fucking...
Well, at least we know that if
Don't
we
worry,
ever
I've
do get
seen a lot of
sponsored by BetterHelp, that we can just toss it to Kalen and he can just drop it at the drop of a fedora.
If It's Always Sunny podcast, they talk about it. The funny thing about BetterHelp, I hope that we never get them because I'm about to blow the lid off BetterHelp. They suck. They're not
I know.
good. They're a bad company.
I tried. That's the one I tried first, and they were like, "So it's $250 an hour," and I was like, "What?
I ain't got time for that.
What?" And then I just went to my doctor, and they like gave me like a referral, and then it was covered by OHIP.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
so let's go back to Also, Ontario health coverage, pretty great. You can get mental health coverage now easily. Her
you
mom
guys
comes
ever
home
eaten
and
a
she's a
spoonful of
slut.
she's
Sorry,
a slut who looks
I'm
like she came
channeling
from
my
a
Chucky.
prom.
She's wearing pearls and she's wearing a fur coat, and she gets into it with her daughter and she's like, "I have a guest," and he's like, "Where's the bourbon?" in the downstairs area, and she's like,
I'll be down in a second.
I do just want to sort of stick, before we go into the movie, there were a couple of things I wanted to point out about this intro as it pertains to the other movies. And absolutely, I had so much more fun just watching her build this paper mache, because it's something is happening visually while the credits are going. But then I had a good, like as soon as the credits stop and you see what's happening, I got a laugh out loud moment where she takes a spoonful of what I assume is just caffeine powder, slams it.
I thought it was coffee, instant
it's
coffee.
coffee grounds.
Oh,
yeah,
was it
coffee.
instant coffee? Well, anyway, she slams instant coffee and then takes a giant chug of Diet Pop.
Diet Coke.
And then turns on Dawkins. She turns on the radio, and Into the Fire by Dawkins is playing. That's when her mom walks in. I love that song. There's just a little tidbit about that song. It was used prominently in a pro wrestling show within the last couple, like right before the pandemic.
No, I thought you were gonna say, and that's when Freaky came into my living room and said, "This man has an erection."
And then
I
he
thought
painted
you were
my
going to say
fucking
that
toenails.
they
It
were
was crazy.
inspired by
I thought you were gonna
Final
say you
Fantasy.
painted your dick like a lighthouse. Ding, 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 ding.
And then Willem Dafoe and fucking Edward Cullen came
Robert
out.
Patterson
Robert
had
Pattinson.
sex on your living room floor in front of
They
you.
started fucking a mermaid right in front of me. Spoilers for the lighthouse. They fuck a mermaid.
They do that.
Where's the hole?
It's crazy what they
It's
show.
like a fish flap. It's not a hole.
Yeah, it's crazy. The movie rules. Shout out to A24 for that one too.
Lighthouse actually was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Remember that
But
shot
yeah,
where it's the lighthouse sideways and then it goes like that? And you're like, that's a dick.
Yeah. Wait, is that real? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
shot where it cuts the lighthouse and it's sideways. And then it just
And
goes
it's
like
got
that. And it like rotates
Oh, a
sideways.
rat.
And you're like, oh, it's a dick getting hard. That's funny.
Nice. I like that. I didn't even notice that.
Those old
Yeah, the
men
whole
were
movie's
fucking
about how
each
those
other.
two guys want to fuck each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Some,
fuck
Brokeback
the
stuff.
mermaid that they have up in the roof that may or may not be real.
I don't remember a mermaid, though.
You don't remember the flash? Like, it's just like a flash, and it's just so like vivid for like just a moment. And the implication is that Willem Dafoe's up there banging.
He's alone. He's a lonely guy.
This actually pertains to this movie because all of the movie like is very dreamlike. It is very much like you don't know what's real and what isn't real.
Because they're all sleep deprived.
They're
Yeah,
sleep
it's kinda
deprived.
nice.
They have no like they have like the same. They're all wasted all the time. All they have is bourbon and stew.
I do like that they jump like pretty quickly from her to a Freddy moment where she gets her wrist cut and her mom obviously thinks that she's trying to commit suicide, but it was Freddy sort of maybe like
My
possessing
second,
her. And okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say my second laugh out loud. I went from shock to comedy because the realization that she's cut her wrist, the mom sees it. I was like, oh fuck, that's what he's doing in this movie. Because during that dream sequence at the beginning, we see a bunch of kids hanging, implying that I don't know if those are meant to be the kids from the previous movie or if they're just like souls he's taken. Which we find out later that like he's being powered by the souls. So she sees a bunch of people hanging. She snaps out of it, and her wrist is cut. But when she falls over,
It's like a comedy
It's
edit,
like
yeah.
I was like, what the? That was so out of place. Like
I wrote down in my notes like, was that a comedy edit? Like it was like so like, whoa, and
Yeah.
then it, like, immediately cuts to a mental facility. Yeah, that's a comedy edit, man. That was.
it was like a
quite
Judd
clearly a
Apatow
comedy edit.
moment. It was like a Judd Apatow like comedy moment or like a John Hughes.
I think
crap-
Judd Apatow directed this movie.
what's more,
And The
John-
Mask.
and the mask and John Hughes was there and they fucked in a lighthouse.
How did you like the faucet? The handles.
I liked it.
of the
I liked
faucet
it.
turning
And when
into
it came
handles.
out, it looked like the pipes almost looked like a forearm bone, like
Yeah.
the sort of like dual
Femur?
bone,
No.
and it looked like a skeletal arm, which was pretty cool. I was like, this
And
is
the
good design.
The effect of the claws coming out of the like handle too looked really cool. And that's
Yeah.
another point where I was like, this movie's gonna have some crazy shit in it. Like this movie's might actually be a little bit too much for me to handle. And then what I learned throughout the movie is that I can handle anything on a screen, assuming that it's not, extremely horrible.
Yeah,
As long as it's
it does a
practical-
good job without
practical
pushing it to the
effects.
point that you're like you get that gaggy feeling in your throat and want to look away, or like grab at extremities on your body, going like,
Oh God, that I understand how that might feel. Maybe
like that's when I get finicky. That's why I can watch like extreme gore, like Saw and stuff, because I'm like, I would never know what it feels like to saw my own foot off, so that I can't imagine that pain. So I'm like, this is not frightening to me. But if it's somebody getting their fingernails pulled backwards, I'm like, yeah.
Here's a fun mental exercise for you to do the next time you watch a horror movie. Do you ever look at something and know, hey, I know what that would feel like on my tongue? Do that while you're watching a horror movie.
Oh, like what it would taste like?
Not taste, like, you know how you can look at something and for some reason you can just like, you know what that would feel like on your tongue. Maybe even taste.
I think paper cut? I can do both. I can taste and know what it would feel like.
Yeah,
most of the time,
I can too. I know that my banister.
It's because when I was a kid, I would walk around and lick everything because I was ding, 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 a weird kid.
A weird kid. I think you're a weird adult.
No, I'm normal.
What is normal? What does it mean to be normal, Freddy Krueger?
There's a good.
It's simple, really.
It's simple, bitch. Just don't be a fucking weirdo, bitch.
And get high.
Super high,
so
bitch.
I guess we can kind of skip over the mom stuff, though it does come back later a couple times, but like we essentially revisit this entire sequence of events of the mom and the daughter in the bedroom, only it's like much nicer later.
That's how you know it's fake.
We get to the hospital and we immediately are introduced to a doctor and an orderly. The doctor played by Bill Maher and the orderly played by Morpheus.
What? You're making a joke, right? Yeah, okay, good.
I would never make a joke.
Yeah, but Morpheus was true.
Yeah, and the Neil being Bill Maher was funny because I was like, when I first saw him, I was like, what do I reckon? This dude and the guy that played Philip,
he's like, new rule, Freddy Krueger can be brought into our reality if we hold on to him. New rule, we have dream powers now. That's me doing my Bill Maher impression. Also,
I see.
Snowflakes. Everyone's a snowflake.
Everyone.
Speaking of snowflakes,
everyone is a snowflake.
Except for me and my peers who are my age.
I want to know about. Yeah, he. You
used to be with it, and now you're just out of touch. You old
forgot
creep.
what it was or whatever. I have a question about Philip though. Who is he? Craig Wasson. It's basically.
He looks like Bill Maher. That's why I thought I said it.
Kid. Oh, he kind of reminded me of what's his face, Rudy or whatever.
Yeah, Philip. Philip looked like Rudy, but he also looked like Biff from.
I have a hard time with all the names in this movie, so you guys are gonna need to tell me.
Philip is the one with the tendons, the sleepwalking.
Philip is the sculpture.
First to die, yeah, okay. Yeah. That's what I call him. First to die.
First to die.
But yeah, so mom catches her in the bathroom, thinks she's being suicidal or whatever, so she goes to the institution. We get a kind of quick little brief introduction of our supporting cast characters.
Yeah. I mean, I do have one question about that. Do you think that Freddy did that so that she would be placed in that hospital so that they would be all together so that he could like have fun torturing all of them together?
I think he got interrupted. If the mom hadn't came in, then he would have killed, like she would have been
killed for real. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if Freddy was like,
I want to savor this bitch,
and like was like trying to get them all pushed into the same hospital so that he could like torment them as a group, and maybe he'd get like more energy from it or whatever the fuck. I don't know why he does what he does, but like I assume it gives him
the thrill of the
energy of some kind.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys though. What's up with the preppy kid Joey and the teardrop tattoo?
Which disappears through.
Disappears.
Yeah, it's only there for the first moment of introduction.
I made a note about that, and I was like, "Oh, so Joey's killed people in prison." But then I was like,
"That's what I said."
Was that thing a thing in 1988? Is that?
I'm sure it was. It was probably like bred in the like 70s and 80s.
That's what I was thinking.
Was he trying to be cool, badass to impress the nurse?
Here's another way I looked at it. I looked at it like he was the sad clown, but they never really explore the
mute sad clown, because the sad clown is usually like mute or whatever,
right? But they don't. He never, like, I guess through the movie he does a little bit jokey. He does like go like that while they're playing D&D at one point, but like he was meant to be a side clown, that was lost in the translation of his character, because him not talking in a movie where everybody has such a big personality, even though he's like the second to main character almost, he doesn't really, or he's like the person in distress character that they have to save. He doesn't. It's not that prominent because he never says any words, and he's not that like emotive when they show him. They show him on screen, and he's just kind of like most of the time. Maybe he's a bad actor.
I think that's probably the answer. Yeah, he's probably not a great actor.
He's a bad actor. They
hired him because he's a little cutie or whatever, and they're like, you don't need to do much. You just need to like look panicked and scream, but not make any noise. And
yeah.
We also get the return of Nancy around this part as well.
She comes in.
Yeah, Nancy freaks out, and they're trying to inject her to make her sleep, and she's freaking out because she doesn't want to go to sleep. And then
those screams were Patricia's screams ADR?
I don't know, but they were aggravating for sure.
She was, her scream. I have a feeling that when she went in to test for it, they were like, "Wow, this girl's got that scream queen scream. She's got it in spades." And then on film, it's just high pitched and bad. And then
I would call it a screech, not a scream.
And then her acting was a little like, she wasn't a bad actor, but I don't know to this day, I don't know what her accent is, because David Arquette does not have like a weird accent. She sounds like she's from Alabama, but also from Connecticut. I don't know what that accent is. She's always had it. It makes me like it.
Maybe he was just better at getting rid of it or something. Yeah.
I don't know where the Arquettes are from.
Or if like sometimes like people when they act, they'll weirdly put on a different voice.
Yeah.
And it's so I was in a play one time, and there was this one person in the play, and it was The Crucible, which is the story of like the Salem witch trials and all that stuff. And
I remember them.
I played the judge in the play, and this one actor, she would come in and we would run through in rehearsal all of our lines, and we would just speak them because we were like just trying to memorize. We weren't trying to like be actors. And then when she would act, she would just do a British accent, and we're all like looking around being like, why the fuck are you doing the British accent? We're in fucking Boston.
That's like a joke from like, that's hilarious, because that's like a joke
from I'm Still Here. Yo, Jason, remember Joaquin Phoenix, I'm Still Here? And they're doing that like church play or whatever. And then one of the other actors in it was doing like a gangster accent or something like that. And he's like, I thought this was just like a little play. Like, why are you doing an accent?
The other thing that I've noticed about that is people put on almost the mid-Atlantic accent right up until like the early 90s. Like, people still kind of talk like this in movies. Like, even the kids in this kind of have this a little bit when they're talking. And maybe Patricia Arquette that's what she's doing. Just
that's the other thing, right? Is there was like an actory way of speaking, right? And maybe that's what it is, but maybe she does just have like a weird accent that she hasn't been able to drop. But I don't know. I'm not overly familiar with Patricia Arquette's filmography.
True Romance. Add that one.
I own True Romance on Blu-ray.
But I saw her recently in that David Arquette documentary about his wrestling career.
Oh, okay.
And she's in it talking about like David Arquette's an idiot for doing this. He had one little stint when he was a young actor in the 90s, and I was trying to be a wrestler as like a fucking almost 50-year-old man. This is ridiculous.
And she's like smoking a cigarette, and she's like, my brother is a fucking fool.
Exactly.
He's a fucking maniac.
She sounds like she does in this movie, just like 30 years later. And
I lost a contact lens. Anyone seen it?
Anyone see my contact lens? Like, Patricia, we're just in a room talking. Like, can you?
You're just in a room. I'm living, darling. Living.
You know how you find your contact lens? You like drop the second one. And
I think we just found a new voice for Freaky. Whip it out, darling. Whip them all out.
Wait, Kaylin, I want to hear what did you just say about
if you ever lose your contact lens and you want to find it, just drop the second one and follow where it goes.
Is that it? That's a joke, right? It's going way over my head though.
No, it's it's
or is it like funny wisdom?
That's an old wives' tale, darling. Follow where it goes.
Why? Because they have to stay a pair?
What's the magnets in them?
Well, because it'll potentially naturally fall the same way.
That's no. What if you lost it like on the other side of the room?
Yeah.
Like,
Also, contacts can like just out of your eye, like, and go flying.
in
I
any
don't know
direction.
anything about contact.
Well, when they dry out, they act like a suction. And if you've seen a dry suction, it unsuctions and like.
I've seen those
I've
little
seen a
plastic
dry
half
suction,
circles.
my dear. Ah,
That's freaky.
freaky.
He loves
Gotta
a
go.
dry
I have to go to
suction.
the washroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. He loves a dry suction.
Dude. What did you think of the white nun when you first saw her? Like, what went through your head?
I saw a ghost. Listen. I know it's easy to say I predicted this and that without doing it on the fly, but as soon as she talked about the story of Freddy Krueger's mom, which we'll get to, can't really even say it in detail, I was like, oh, this is the ghost of Freddy Krueger's mom.
Gotcha.
I knew it, and I didn't action it.
I didn't know it.
I didn't say it to anybody because I was watching it alone. In my head, I said it. You can choose to think that I'm full of shit. That's fine.
I believe you. Why would you lie to me?
I don't
You're
know.
still talking about contact lenses?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about what he.
Well, just
what you thought
ask,
of the
just
white
ask
nun.
Steve the same question the way you asked me. Just ask him the same question.
Ask me it.
So, what did you think when you saw the white nun for the first time?
Oh, well, my first thought was because the doctor like turns and he looks directly in the camera and goes like this.
Yeah.
And so my first thought was, oh, there's a camera there. And then it goes through, it does sort of like that classic sort of horror where there's people walking, like far too many people walking at the same time through a corridor. And she's just standing there like, no, 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 no.
Wait. I thought
It turned into Home Alone for a second.
Coming for you, and then you went into
I couldn't
Home
remember
Alone.
the theme.
But you had it, and then all you had to do was just keep doing that.
True, I should. Yeah. And then I was like, ghost nun. She's a ghost, probably. She's probably going to be a ghost. And then when we see her later, he's talking to her. And then Nancy comes up and is like, what are you doing over here by this old ass tree? And he's like, oh, well, I was just talking to nobody.
Never mind.
I
Losing
thought
my
Freddy might have
noodles?
been trying to fuck with him.
I
The
did
nun
as well.
was? The nun, like, she hid behind a tree and she's like breathing silently, like, I'm going to fuck with this guy so hard until I reveal the secret of the son of 100 maniacs or whatever the fuck
I
it
also
was.
thought that it might have been Freddy messing with him, but at that point it isn't established that he can interact with the outside world yet.
Right.
We don't get that till the very
Well,
end.
I mean, we
can't
have,
really.
we have Freddy 2 where he could, so.
But he could possess people in
He could jump
that
out of
one.
a dream into somebody and possess them.
And then once he's
Right.
in somebody's body, he can like pull himself into the real world and then cause havoc or whatever.
Listen,
That's why Freddy 2 is like
I'm
it
gonna
establishes all these weird rules
Yeah.
that do not continue through the rest of the series that are not like you have to pull him in yourself, I think is where this movie kind of
I
like
think what happened is they made that second movie and like it didn't hit people the same way the first one did, so they doubled down and they did things in this one that made it a direct sequel to the first one. They didn't have any of the possession stuff, didn't have any like thinly veiled like subversive.
Yeah, I think the second movie made its money back enough, but they were like, but not enough that they're like, we want to continue the story of Jesse and Freddy being a possessor. We need to go back to the original
looking at the
formula.
other horror movies of
But
the
they also
era,
brought
too.
back because Wes Craven did not want to make this into a franchise, so he didn't come back for the second movie. But he did come back to do story credit and stuff. And he's like, "No, he's a dream team."
Yeah, he saw the second one. He's like, "Wait a second,
Yeah.
no."
You guys really forgot the whole thing. He's a dream man. He lives in dreams.
He
He doesn't
fucks
just
with you
come
in
into the real
dreams.
world and murder a pool party.
I think this movie might have been Wes Craven's like depending on how much he actually put into. See, okay, so Ben was supposed to be on, but he's dead. He died. He
Freddy got
Fell asleep and he
extremely
never woke
sick.
up.
He got extremely sick today, and he couldn't make it on. But there's a documentary about this movie. Apparently, it's also very good. And he watched it in preparation for this, so he could have spoken to this. But I imagine that the people who made this, along with Wes Craven, with the story credit, consulted him, much like when they couldn't make any more Game of Thrones because there was no more books.
Wes Craven wrote this movie.
Oh, he wrote this movie. Okay, my bad. I imagined that he at one point he was like, I'm going to make a sequel. This is what I want the sequel to be. Then he was like, I don't want it to be a franchise, and left for the second movie. And then they just made whatever that was a whole other thing.
A very good movie as well, though.
It's a great movie, but it's different. It's a different. They came back.
Some might call it super queer.
It's queer cinema.
Aggressive subtext.
Aggressive subtext.
Hardcore subtext.
Is the subtext of this movie AIDS and seeking help or protection?
No, it's suicide and
mental
drug
health
addiction and
drug addiction.
Well, where did you get AIDS from?
Well, there was.
If anything, the second one is AIDS more than this one.
There was a part though. There might have been a couple parts, but there was one part that stood out.
The second one is Queer Fear.
It's I know, I know, but like in that era, that was on everybody's mind as it pertained to.
I guess you could consider Freddy Krueger AIDS incarnate in that movie.
But there's a moment in one of their group therapies, one of the first ones, where she says the doctor lady says something about sexual, where did I write it here?
Proclivity.
Sexual, overt sexuality or something like that.
That's because
and then Kincaid's like, oh, my penis is killing me.
Yeah, but she also lists drugs, alcohol.
And he meant literally as a joke that his penis, his horniness is killing him. Because it's causing
you forgot to listen to the other 5 things she listed.
No, I heard those too. I was just also thinking of
I was just really into the dick part.
The doctors
leads us to.
The doctors continue to ignore the fact that the kids are like, we're all seeing the same person, and it's making it. You're perceiving us as killing ourselves, but Freddy's making us. And I know this sounds crazy, but Freddy's making us. He's killing us in our dreams by making us kill ourselves in our dreams, which in real life looks like we're just killing ourselves. But how did that girl put her whole head through a TV that was 6 feet off the ground?
Yeah, you're jumping ahead quite a bit, because in the first meeting before the Muppet Man gets killed or whatever, when he gets puppeted to his death. Philip. He is the one that says, like, you guys are all seeming to forget that we all dreamed about this guy before we even met each other, and nobody seems to think that that's amazing in any way. And the doctors are in a mindset where they're like, you guys dreamt of something and met each other and have now connected through a group psychosis and created an image in your mind that wasn't fully formed before, and you've now fully formed it because you've all met each other. And like, I guess that's sort of the importance of why you should keep people who are psychotic away from each other until you've had enough time to gather data to understand what their psychosis is before you put them together. Which is why I was asking you guys earlier, do you think that Freddy pushed her there? Because it would like only exacerbate their psychosis that they're going through, which they aren't, but it would allow them to encourage one another to stop sleeping and like stand guard for each other to not go to sleep and all that kind of stuff. Because Freddy even says later in the movie, like, I wanted you to stay awake long enough so that when you fall asleep, it'll be almost impossible to wake you up. And like, that's, if he's trying to do that, then if you get somebody to stay awake for 3 days, then when they fall asleep, they're essentially in a coma at that point, and you cannot wake them up, right? Which is why I was like, is he trying to push these kids together so that they like, amp each other up in their own minds? Because everybody has to go to sleep eventually. You cannot stay awake forever, or you will just die. Yeah.
I stayed up for like 20. I think my max is like 28 hours. I used to do all-nighters all the time when I was a teenager. And I think one time I made it 28 hours.
You got you beat there, pal.
28? That's only 4
You remember the
hours.
Escape from New York episode?
What? You were both saying things.
Sorry, I said, do you remember the Escape from New York episode? I was awake for like 36 hours at that point.
Oh, yes. Right.
That must have been trippy.
Well, you saw it.
Go back and watch the episode.
Yeah, go back and watch what remains of that episode. No, 28 hours was like, maybe it was longer, but I remember it being 28 hours because I stayed up all night, and then I went to the mall in the morning. And then I came home at around, got home, went to the comic book store at the mall and was like looking at action figures and comics and stuff. And I came home and I went to sleep, and I slept for 24 straight hours.
Nice.
So
So when I stay awake for a really long time, I still only sleep the same amount of time I would regularly sleep for, and you still feel fucked up, but then you can like easily fall asleep for like a couple days after. Like I have suffered from insomnia in the past, and it's like it's not great. You start to think things that aren't real, and like it's fucking wild. You become crazy. But I think my record was like 3 straight days of like, why am I still awake without like uninterrupted sleep? And at that point, yeah, I would have believed that somebody was coming at me with a scissor glove, and like, like, oh.
But would you have believed if the three of us were in a room and we all fell asleep and then we're like, hey, what are you doing?
I would have woken up and then saw Kalen dressed like Freddy Krueger and tried to kill him. He's gonna kill me.
But really,
he's not burned, but I know
really,
he's got a burn mask under there. And
really, you're just in the you're in the shoppers downstairs in your building, and you're just like killing an old guy.
You're not gonna get me, Kalen. I'm like yelling at this old man as I'm stabbing him with like knitting needles.
Hey, that happened before.
What? That thing I just said?
Yeah, my uncle stabbed my mom in the leg with a knitting needle.
To death?
Are you allowed to talk about this?
Yeah, they had fun.
Jesus.
What the fuck? What in the rural...
Anyway, I was going to say that I have the opposite problem of all of these kids where they're like trying to stay awake, whereas I'm like often trying to go to sleep and I cannot go to sleep.
If Freddy can only attack at night, I would have no problem with this challenge.
But it's not that he can only attack at night, it's that he can only attack when you're sleeping. So like you could be
usually
asleep on a bench in the park in the middle of the day and he'll kill you. Yeah.
Is hypnosil a real thing, do we know?
Oh,
I never looked it up.
Is it a thing that like is there even if it's not called that, can you have a thing that just blocks your
hypnotherapy
dreams?
Or whatever? Hypnosil.
Hypnosil, that drug that Nancy takes to like block her dreams.
Right. I have an even better question. Has a hypnotist ever hypnotized themselves?
Hypnotism is not actually like a real thing, Kayla.
Let's pretend it is, though. How?
Then sure, yes.
I'm sure.
Also, I didn't know Lawrence Fishburne was in this movie, so when you first see him, I out loud was like, Larry!
I had that reaction too, and I had that reaction to Patricia Arquette. And I was like, oh man, who else is going to be in this who's like a huge actor now? And then I was like, oh, that's literally it. That's all.
One of my friends worked on the show Hannibal, which is filmed in Toronto. And Lawrence Fishburne was in that show as the like police chief man or whatever. Can't remember the name of the character. But he told me that like one day he was lighting Lawrence Fishburne and he was just like holding a light and like Lawrence Fishburne went like, easy with that light. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Fishburne. And he said, hey, you don't need to apologize and call me Fish. I was like, what the fuck? Lawrence Fishburne asks people to call him Fish? That's sick.
That's like that story about what's his face from Escape from New York that Ben told on the show about his buddy going to Kurt Russell's house and he's just a fucking weirdo. These actors are just weird. I worked at Loblaw. And I worked at the coffee station at Loblaws. And Lawrence Fishburne came in because, like you said, he just lives in Toronto and works in Toronto. And at that time was on Hannibal. And everybody was like doing the weirdest fucking thing that I've ever seen. Where nobody would approach him, but there were little like crowds.
Bubbles of people, yeah.
Yeah, like just like 10 feet away.
Yeah, I saw the other guy, like the guy who played the main guy.
Mikhail.
Mikhail.
You don't know from this movie?
What?
The main doctor guy from this movie? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No. We're talking about Hannibal.
Hannibal.
No.
Not German guy.
Mads Mikkelsen, the guy who plays
he's German, right?
The detective guy. I'm not talking about Mads Mikkelsen. I'm talking
Hugh Dancy.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to remember the character name. Hugh Dancy. Yeah.
Will Graham.
Will Graham. Yeah, and I saw Will Graham, and he's so short. shorter than me.
He looks short.
Like,
his picture makes him look like it's a headshot, and I'm like, that guy's
it's
short.
like him standing next to like basketball players. You're like, this picture really makes him look short.
No, okay. It's just his headshot on like a red carpet, and it's like that dude's hilariously short.
It's like a person's wrist next to his head. You're like, this guy, I think, might be really short. Anyway, I saw him,
but I did see.
I said, "Hey, Hannibal, such a good show," and he said, "Hello," and then I said, "Nothing."
Bye.
And I said, "Okay, I just want to say good job."
Goodbye.
Like, okay.
I did also see Ben Mulrooney at that. The only other like celebrity I saw was Ben Mulrooney, and all he is really known for is being on like Entertainment Tonight and whatever.
I do have a Mads Mikkelsen story as well. When I was working at Casa Loma, that was pretty fucking wild.
My story is literally just that nobody cared about Ben Mulrooney.
Well, I went down into the tunnels beneath Casa Loma, and they were filming that movie Polar in Casa Loma. And I went down into the tunnels because it was the end of the games and stuff. And like I was there doing like auditing and stuff and like watching people run the game and making sure they were doing it up to snuff or whatever. And I went down to take a shortcut through the tunnels, but I didn't know they had started filming shit. And they were doing they were like rehearsing through the tunnel, I guess. And so I came down and I went down the stairs and a person ran by me and I was like, what the fuck? And I looked and I looked the other way and Mads Mikkelsen is running with no shirt on, like at me. And I was like, whoa, no. And then he was like, oh. And I was like, what the fuck? And then he was just like, we're filming. And I was like, you're filming? And he's like, well, no, we're rehearsing. And I was like, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I liked you in the James Bond movies and the Hannibal show. I gotta go. I'll go take the long way around, I guess.
I liked you in Death Stranding.
And then I saw him eating,
real freaky,
and I was like embarrassed. I wanted to go talk to him, but I was too scared.
Now you didn't see him without his shirt while he was trying to rehearse.
And he yelled at me in the tunnel.
He yelled at you a little bit. He thought you were probably some AD. Probably thought you were like the fucking.
He probably thought that I had ADHD, and he would have been right.
He would have been right.
How do you guys feel about melting tricycles?
I thought the melting tricycle was fantastic.
Yeah, what I said was, oh no, that tricycle has a wound. And then I said, that's one hot rod as it started melting.
That's pretty good.
I'm turning into Freaky, by the way. The new character.
Around this point when they're talking about, they talk about another kid who was there and I guess died because he was trying to stay awake so hard that he cut his own eyelids off. I made a note about that because that's messed up. That's so fucked. And this is one of those things like Chunky 3 where a lot of the stuff they're talking about or the implications of things is a lot scarier. But so then, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. Freddy just starts doing Freddy shit and you're like, oh, that's way scarier when he's actually
Freddy.
So that the eyelid thing is a thing that Wes Craven put into this, and he wanted to actually show that. I think he wanted that to be like the cold open kind of thing. Is this kid like with like no eyelids?
That'd be dope.
Dying or whatever, killing himself. And I think that the process was going to be like he is running and the orderlies are chasing him and like he's running away from Freddy or whatever, and then he dies and we never see Freddy, and then it's going to be like it looks like he killed himself, which would have been a really good cold open. But then he also tried to recycle that idea again for New Nightmare, because Wes Craven is a character in New Nightmare, and he wanted to have himself be obsessed with writing this Freddy script where he's trying to like focus the energy of this demon, and he was going to be in the back of a van where he like has a guy driving him around, and only the two of them believe that this demon is coming to Earth. And he's cut his own eyelids off, and he has like a computer in the back of a van, and he's just like constantly writing a script with no eyelids, like ah. And I'm like, that is so fucking cool. Like Wes Craven is maybe the most creative sick fuck that I've ever like heard of in my life. Like he loves his creepy shit, and he made all the Scream movies too. He got real meta after he made New Nightmare. He was like, I'm gonna try and take because he was trying to make the meta thing work with New Nightmare, and then he was like, I'm gonna just make a whole new franchise based around the idea of meta horror movies.
And it worked for sure.
Yeah,
they just are releasing a new one like this week. I think a new one came out.
I know people that have seen it.
Jenna Ortega.
She's the new like Courtney Cox character, right? She's the one being tortured, or I guess it's Selma Blair.
I wouldn't call her the Courtney Cox character. Maybe the
she's
Neve
the
Campbell.
the Neve Campbell,
yeah.
or Selma Blair.
She's the new Sydney
or
whatever. Yeah.
The first four are all Wes Craven movies.
Didn't you learn your lesson, Kaylin? That was problematic in 2001 or whatever the fuck that movie came out.
But Freddy was a penis, so much so that they had to put slop on him so that he didn't look so penisy.
Wait, they put slop on him to make him look less like a penis?
We're not at the it was like penis
that
part yet.
Green goop or whatever. So because he was his like burnt skin color, which is like he did
look way more like a dick in the early.
He was so there's like a regular circumcision, and then there's like if you like circumcise the whole shaft.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
What the fuck?
Like if you deglove a penis, de-penis a penis.
So it's like if there's no skin on a dick.
De-sheath a penis?
I think God! The vagina. Oh God! No!
No! The vagina.
And I'm feeling it in my wiener.
It's me, Freaky, and I'm back.
But now he sounds like Freddy. What the hell happened?
It's me, Freaky.
I've been to hell and back.
And now I sound like this, bitch.
What the Freddy as a penis, for lack of a better term, I thought he was like supposed to be like a freaky snake. He reminded me of two things. He reminded me of the on the front of Jason Goes to Hell, there's like a hell worm going through the mask, and then also in like Beetlejuice, the sandworm, but with Beetlejuice's face on the front of it.
Yeah,
that's what.
Well, I mean, it's a snake with a person's face in the front, so that's obvious. That's a fair comparison.
So I didn't immediately go to penis though, because
what Kaylin's saying is that it in early production it looked way more like a dick. And they had to like scale it back because they're like, this is just a giant dick, and they were like, yeah, perfect. Freddy's a pervert.
Freddy later does have a bit of like he's a pervert, kind of like a weird pervert character, and in this movie it's very subtle. But now that you guys have mentioned it, I think that moment is meant to be that for sure. And then the other one that I noticed is in one of the mirrors, like when he becomes Mirror Freddy and he's in all the mirrors, and one of them he's just going,
yeah.
And I was like, oh,
wait, Frankie.
He's a weird pervert.
Frankie's a real piece
but I
of
think
shit.
it's like a mismemory that he he just murdered kids.
You might be thinking of the new Nightmare on Elm Street, the reboot one.
Well, the new one goes to the original script, which the original script of the first Nightmare on Elm Street, I almost said Before Christmas, was
Jack Skellington is
Jack Skellington's a pedophile.
He shows up on Chris Hansen Hardline, and it's not great.
And he's like, Jack the Pumpkin King. And he's like, have a seat. Have a seat. You're right, Jack the Pumpkin King.
It says right here that you wanted me to gargle
and
your balls.
You clearly here said you are aware that she's 13 years old. And he's like, no. Anyway, gotta go. Yeah.
But we do learn of Kristen's dream powers.
Hold on. So the original Nightmare on Elm Street had a lot of stuff that they had to pull back because of an incident that happened at the same time that they were in production of the movie. Something that happened in real life, which was like this ring of schools, or no, it was one school, sorry, but it had a whole bunch of teachers who somehow they all just like collectively got together and were like systematically molesting like the entire student body kind of thing. It was like somehow a whole school was just like made up of pedophiles, which seems impossible, but I guess it happened somehow.
Well, once one got in, they probably told their friends like, "Hey."
Well, I think it was a preschool, and preschool you don't have to have any kind of teacher certificates. You don't have to go to college. You just have to be a person who is a certified caregiver, which means you can just like go to like a weekend class and learn CPR and just be like, I have a preschool now, and give me all your kids. And
that's still a thing. That can't still be like, I'm sure there's more rules in place now, right?
Yeah, there's more licensing now, but like back then it was just like, as long as you are a licensed caregiver, you can. So it was probably just like someone who was getting a bunch of weird creeps to come in and work there.
Yeah.
But that was being unveiled at the same time that they were producing the first movie. So they were like, okay, let's scale back the rapey stuff and just make him a murderer. And I would say to the benefit of the character and the franchise, because the fact that
it's hard to laugh, even if he's doing Bugs Bunny shit in the later movies. It's hard to be like, oh yeah, also that he's a pedophile.
That's like I watched the remake last night, and that's like the biggest issue with that movie is that like they lean so hard into that stuff where I'm like, I feel like you guys really missed the mark in terms of like, why do people like Freddy? They like him because he's like, I'm gonna fuck with you in your dreams. That's why they like him. They don't like him because he's like, I'm a child molester. Like, what the fuck? No one wants that part. Get rid of that part. That's the part you should have threw out the window immediately and just leaned into like he's a weirdo, funny, but also scary character.
And I mean, like, it's still gross that he like murdered a bunch of kids, but it's not like story-wise, it's less. You feel less gross about it. It's still.
Well, I lay in bed last night after watching it, and I was like, how could they do a remake of Freddy where they don't lean into that aspect and have it be that weird, creepy shit? And my conclusion was that he would have had to have been taking revenge on the parents who took revenge on him, like a weird circle where like they did something to his child, so he did something to their children, and then they killed him for it. Like that's the only way that I see that working, where he can still be like a fun character that we kind of root for in terms of him murdering people, or like to watch him be a murderer. Because you can't make him that vile and then expect to come back and make a duplicate franchise when they've already got Robert Englund, who's like perfect Freddy. Like that's the other hurdle, right? Is like, how do we get over that hurdle? And I don't even think the guy who played Freddy in the remake did a terrible job. I just think that like what he was working with was like, so you're a pervert again. He's like, God damn it, I play a pervert in every movie. And they're like, I know, that's why we picked you, you
not
fucking pervert.
Who is he?
The guy, he's Rorschach from Watchmen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I remember now. I remember. I can like picture him as Freddy in my head now. I'm going to look him up. That's fucking great. The thing, just to kind of switch gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about, before I forget, I wanted to talk about how this movie, compared to the other two and compared to the other movies, feels less like even though it involves teens, it feels less like a teen movie because it's like darker. Like the cinematography is actually visually darker. It feels more like, it looks visually like Predator 2, or it looks visually like Hellraiser. It's got that dark gradient, and that makes it feel more real. RoboCop,
and I mean, in terms of narrative, the adults, Nancy and the other doctor, are not treating them like they're insane people. They're treating them like people. Even Lawrence Fishburne, to a degree, is like, he's not like, he loves them. Like he keeps referring to them as like his kids or whatever. Like, I just lost another one of my kids tonight, kind of thing. And I was like, this character should have also been brought into the dream world. They should have like yanked Lawrence Fishburne into the dreams to like take care of business with Freddy. I think he would have been able to knock Freddy's lights out for a second, you know?
Well, Kincaid had kind of filled that. You know, he had the super strength. He had the one-liners.
That's racist, Kalen. You're a horrible racist. You're worse than Freddy.
I set myself up for that one. My apologies. But we do get introduced to Kristen's dream power. She can bring people into her dreams, as you were just now mentioning, wanting Lawrence, a.k.a. what's his character's name? Max, to be brought into the dream.
Before we get into the whole Dream Warriors thing, for my whole life, I guess this is an extension of my like history with the movie. I thought that all of the kids had dream powers, but in a way that they band together and defeat
like Voltron?
Freddy? No, yes, but not.
They all open their mouths and like one of them puts their legs in each mouth.
Let me finish my thought or I'll forget it. they come together to defeat Freddy, like a group of 5 or 6 of them, and don't die, and other people are getting killed. I didn't realize that the targets are the Dream Warriors, and all of them but 3 end up dying.
Well, they're trying to save Mute Guy.
Well, at first they're trying to save
they're trying to save all
Patricia Arquette. And then while they're trying to save her, Joey gets...
No, Joey gets taken first.
I know, but Patricia Arquette's in the asylum before that, right?
No, that's later.
That is later?
Yeah.
Can I outline how hilariously simple each person's like trope is here?
I mean, if you want to, yeah. I don't think we need to, because it's
Patricia Arquette,
you can look at the poster and understand that shit.
she does flips. Her power, she
Gymnastics,
does flips,
yeah.
but she can also bring people into dreams, okay? Kincaid, wisecracking,
Strong.
and then strong. Okay?
He bends the
Teresa-
chair, and then the doctor says, "Can you stop doing that? It's
Yeah,
unsettling."
It's unsettling.
You put that back, please.
The junkie
Can you
girl
unbend?
That's property damage.
A juvenile delinquent junkie uses knives.
But she's beautiful and bad.
Yeah, she wants to be beautiful and bad. I'm going somewhere with this. The actor girl, we never see her power because she gets fucking eaten by a television.
She got her big break in TV.
Yeah, but she wants to be an actor.
Her power is being burned by cigarette butts.
Wheelchair kid, Dungeons and Dragons, because of course.
Wizard.
You can do
Becomes
wizard.
the wizard master.
Yeah.
Silent kid, silent, dream power, horny.
No, voice.
No, you're right, Kalen. He doesn't know that he's in the dream world yet, so the dream is taking over
They're all
him.
they're all doing his things, but it's set up early in the movie.
But
that
no,
he has a
but
crush on that
he
nurse.
left the room because
know.
the doctor's like, "Everybody take 5," and he leaves because he sees the nurse being like,
Come with me.
and then they start to realize they're in the dream world and they're displaying their powers. All the while, he's sucking on tits.
Quick question: how old are each of those actors? Do you think? Like, how much of an age difference do you think there was?
I don't think it was wide. I don't think it was wide enough for that not to be a weird moment.
Okay.
I saw a thing.
Everybody on
pop up.
set was like, "This
I don't know.
could
about
Lucky
be
this.
kid.
problematic." Yeah.
I saw a thing
Lord.
today that was like in weird science. There's a scene where they take a shower with the fully grown woman.
Yeah.
And that's not great.
They're still wearing their shorts.
Are they? She's
Yeah.
fully
Yeah.
naked, I assume.
So they're all like in these types of things. Like it's usually a closed set. There's usually people there that they trust. If it's an underage actor, they usually have the parents there to like ensure that nothing weird is happening. Like, I know you make that face, but like that's how they get around it or whatever. They have the parents filling out contracts. The child is filling out contracts. It's fucked up.
Hypothetically,
It's really-
that kid's 19.
It's like late teens, and she's like maybe mid to
Maybe
late
25, but like,
Yeah.
how do you?
Like, as real people, how I'm just kind of like,
I don't know
wonder
what the
they
how
felt.
do you what? What is the
Actors,
question?
okay, so actors do have a thing that they have to like close off in their brain for these sorts of things. I
Right.
guess.
Are you asking how do you not get an erection? Is that what you're
No,
asking?
I'm asking how that situation isn't, since it's just like a thrown together horror movie, like we're just making movie here, how it's not closer to like an adult film where things are happening, but also you have to shut things off in your brain. I had some confusing feelings about that
Suspended
movie. That's all.
disbelief.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, it's
I'm not
gross.
being
I
rude.
think it's a gross scene
I'm not
that
being
maybe
rude. It
shouldn't
was
have been in the movie,
it was
or
shocking.
shouldn't have been as wildly explicit. Where she just
Do you
is
know
like,
what it
"Do you
should
like
have been? They
body?"
also set up that pervert orderly who never gets paid off his due. He should have just been in that scene and then been killed. If they wanted so badly to show those beautiful
I think the
yayas.
weirdest part about that scene to me is that they make out, and then he bites the tongue, and then he uses the tongue to tie the kid up, and then he's like,
Well,
but
right?
I wanted like a Freddy head on like that woman's body, like,
Ooh.
like his tits are out.
Nurse
That would have
Freddy.
been pretty fucking hilarious.
That would have been
That would be
hilarious.
pretty funny. When that happened, though, I was like, "Oh, Joey, looks like you're a little tongue-tied." And then seconds later, Freddy said the exact same thing. I'm like, oh man, hire me as a script writer or something.
But the thing is, Kalen, it's not. He's not supposed to be a genius exposition teller. He's making bad cartoon jokes.
Yeah.
So you hit the nail on the head, sure, but you hit the nail on the head that's bad cartoon adjacent, which is cool and it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing in
the bullseye thing
Chucky
in
3.
Chucky
Yeah,
last week.
when he shot the guy in the spine, and I went bullseye, and then immediately Chucky went bullseye. Yeah, exactly, Chucky.
What I'm saying is, it made me feel good.
Yeah, it made me feel good too when I yelled bullseye at the same time as Chucky.
How did you like Nancy falling back in through the chair?
That was probably the best part in the movie. It was like, that is cool. What a cool thing.
So I wanted to bring this up too because there's another scene that looks really cool. Any digital or animated special effects in this movie look really cool. What the wizard laser beams look like the Ghostbuster beams kind of, but the balls when he's got the knocker going. And then he knocks it again. Knockers. He knocks
and balls.
And
balls is also funny.
Balls is funny. But the balls just leave the knocker, and they start floating around the room.
I believe it's called Newton's
Tommy
Cradle
knocker?
or something. Newton's Cradle.
They call it Newton's Cradle when you rub your balls on a woman's chest and then pull them off real quick.
No, those are chestnuts.
That's chestnuts. Tommy knockers also. What's that movie about? Anyway.
Remind me of Starman is what it reminded me of.
When those balls are flying around the room, as they want to do,
they look like cartoons.
I thought that might have been extremely early CGI.
No, it was just compositing.
You think it was just drawings of balls on the screen?
It was like the E.T., but not as good. When all the shit's flying around the room in E.T. Or Poltergeist or whatever.
E3?
Starman.
Starman, yeah. It's like it's a type of compositing. It doesn't look good. You can see
they draw over like another frame.
Yeah, people are like, oh, and they're just like meticulously moving a piece of shit around a frame of film or whatever.
Okay, then the part of what I'm gonna say at the end is going to be omitted. I thought it was digital. I thought it was good digital effects.
It's a type of digital.
True.
Early digital.
I thought it was extremely early CGI because there would have been CGI being used at this point in very sparsely for a lot of money for all of the budget of a movie.
Yeah. No, I think they spent the money wisely in this movie on a lot of the animatronics and shit, and I wish that they would continuously do that to this day, but they don't.
CGI
but I mean,
cheaper,
But if you have the money, you can make CGI look just as good. But at the same time, there's a lot of big budget shows and movies that are putting animatronics in now, and people don't even realize it's animatronics anymore. They assume automatically it's CGI because they'll do digital touch-ups to make like
CGI over a
flesh
lot of
jiggle or whatever.
There's
when it's like mostly a real robot, they'll like make flesh twitch and shit on like a.
This is a mild.
Monster.
This is a mild spoiler for The Last of Us. There's an animal in the final episode. I'm not going to say what it is because it's very pivotal to the plot. It's sort of pivotal.
It's a bear, probably.
It's not.
Rabbit.
No,
fox.
You'll never get it.
Eagle.
If you've never played
lion.
Last of Us, you'll never get it. You won't get it.
Jackal.
Not even close.
Is it a jackal?
Sloth.
No. Anyway, animal in the episode looks like CGI. It was crazy. It looked like bad, it looked like not amazing CGI. You know how sometimes it's like, that's good.
Well, this is why I don't trust anybody's opinion anymore, because I remember the first time that somebody told me something was CGI when I knew it wasn't. And I looked them dead in their eye and I was like, you're wrong. That's real.
This animal,
and I was right,
was the real part of the shot. They showed the shot later. Everything else around it was CGI. They were on like
that's why it made it look weird.
I think that's why it made it look weird. I couldn't believe it. It blew my mind. I was like, wow, I didn't even for a second think that.
Well, that's like any time in Game of Thrones where they show a dire wolf and like they slow it down and it's a huge wolf and you're like, that wolf's fake. And it's like, no, nothing here is fake. They just composited two images together, and because your brain notices the difference, you assume one of them is fake, but they're both real.
Yeah, and like the forced perspective of Gandalf and the Hobbits, all those scenes where he looks giant and they look tiny.
But those look good.
I know. I'm. That's what I'm saying. It's sort of in the same vein, though. Like the direwolf thing was weird because it was very obviously like a slowed down type of wolf that, you know what I mean, that they just made to look bigger.
Timberwolf.
Yeah. Similarly, though, like Gandalf being taller than Rudy. I mean, he
Rudy.
is, but I can't not call him Rudy. I watched all of like season 2 or 3 of Stranger Things going, hey, Rudy.
Oh, I was like, who the fuck are you talking about?
Aston.
Yes, Samwise Gamgee, Mr. Frodo, Potato,
Aston. Sean
boil
Aston.
them, fry them, stick them in stew.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a movie reviewer, Sean Aston. This movie looked okay.
We have another little group therapy session though, where we get to meet the characters a little more. Get to kind of see their characteristics a little bit
This
more.
is basically what I like. I just did that for us. I wanted to make that pervert joke, and you guys just walked all over it and didn't think it was funny. So I hope that when I listen to it back, I laugh at it.
You will. You definitely will.
Oh my god, it's just coming for me, eh? Is Freaky in there?
It's me, Frankie.
Am I in a freaky dream?
Freaky Boogie.
Freaky Boogie. You know, there's that movie that's coming out called The Boogeyman, or it is out. I wonder how different it is from like a Freddy Krueger thing.
It's probably going to be trying to emulate the spookiness, but like they really need to. I think the Terrifier movies are trying to lean into the Freddy's stuff by making him like weird and I don't know, like charismatic to a degree that you're like, that's funny, but then it's also just horrifying gore.
Yeah, I think those movies are probably harken back to this like overly gory 80s movies that are just like a bloodbath. Like
I haven't seen
chainsaws through
either of
faces
them,
and
but
stuff.
it's mostly because everybody just says how really gross they are that I'm like, I don't know if I just want to watch a gross movie.
Or what you do is you wait 20 years till the special effects are so out of date that they won't affect you anymore. I don't think that can happen anymore, honestly. I don't think there's going to be a
Well, I also think in that movie it's all practical effects too, so it is going to still, because I will still watch something from the 80s that grosses me out that CGI just can't accomplish.
Yeah, because I want to see like the practical effects. I look through it. It's like it's a lot like the Walking Dead shit that I've talked about on the show that kind of desensitized me in the first place. There's a lot of practical gore in that's clearly just like pig livers and like fake skin with like fake blood all over it. Like the skin masks that the Whisperers wear in the later seasons.
Almost as good as the tendons or ligaments sleepwalking.
That's now, right? That's coming up, right?
Arm tracks.
Yeah.
We're talking about practical gore, and this movie's filled with it. We're not very far into
talking
the
about
movie.
The Walking Dead, a show that nobody fucking likes. Just kidding.
People used to love it.
My dad likes it.
People used to love it. I've talked about The Walking Dead on every Grimoire episode, so at least I'm not talking about the fantastic film.
I call it The Walking Dad because that's
Avatar.
It's the one show my dad tries to talk to me about all the time.
I have a question. Why did Joey wake everyone up instead of just going up to save Philip?
Maybe he didn't have access. It's a mental institution.
He walked through he ghosted through a door too, which was never really explained.
Yeah, remember when he's like walking and then he goes through a door like magic?
Right.
That door is probably locked.
Gotcha.
I did like it when he tried to like tell the nurse, and then he couldn't get through to her, so he just like flips her fucking lunch.
He takes
Lunch
her lunch tray and throws her food, and then uses the lunch tray to just like knock on every door. But like, I got so frustrated at this point when that nurse like stands up and she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, he can't talk. You know he can't talk. You know his name. You know his deal. He's telling you to come with him. And then they all go into that room and they're yelling, "Philip, no!" And you don't see the nurse come in. Like, she should have came in too, to been like, "Oh!" and like hit like an alarm, like, "Rah, rah, rah," and like a bunch of lights should have went off. And like, then he was falling. It made me so upset that this nurse who's on night duty of a bunch of suicidal teenagers did not just immediately follow this mute kid who's like trying to get her attention. I don't know.
There was another cool moment right before he becomes.
Not frustrating? Are you not frustrated by that?
I was frustrated by it. I was like, what is happening in this fucking asylum where all these kids are screaming and losing their mind, but it's just continuing to happen. But to the practical effect thing too, there's a moment right before this, during the sequence where Freddy becomes alive in one of the dolls.
Oh, right.
And the little stop motion moment, the claymation stop motion bit of him.
I did mean to mention that I saw that part on TV as like a very young kid, and that freaked me the fuck out when he like hops down. And he's like, and then grows, and then starts slashing him, and then it pulls down the sheet, and as he's like slicing the legs. And I immediately switched the channel.
I thought he was doing something to his wiener, if I'm being honest.
You thought he was doing something to his wiener?
I thought he was.
Oh my god! You're Frankie Booger.
I'm Frankie Booger.
Yeah.
It's me, Frankie Booger, and I'm gonna touch your dick with my claw hands.
What he actually did.
But no, what he did was he sliced his arms and his legs open, and then used his fucking main tendon. I guess I don't know what muscle. Ghost muscle.
I'm sure they didn't really research it either. They were like, which tendons can you puppeteer
a person with?
That shot of him though, when he's like a puppet master over the tower, like
that was awesome.
Him and then cuts the tendons.
It's the most 80s shit ever, but it looked like that in theater would have been like mind blowing in 1988.
It was spooky, yeah. I like that he's like he's doing like a headshot angle. Like he's not looking straight on. He's doing like a
gotta go back to the clouds of your dreams.
Also, quick little side note: right around now is when we get a bit of a hat tip to the movie title. 1 hour, 33 minutes, 36 seconds. The theme song Dream Warriors is playing during the credits. We don't get the Elm Street part of the title, but we get a little bit of hat tip with the Dream Warriors.
That song plays earlier in the movie?
No, this is the credits. It's the credits. Sorry, so this is what I do now for the title of the movie is when we hit that time in our episode is when I'll say it.
Cool.
So at roughly an hour and a half, during the credits of the movie, which is around an hour and 33 minutes, which we are about an hour and 33 minutes right now into the episode, we get a little bit of a hat tip to the movie title.
We'll have to make a little.
Hold on, what do we get, Kaylin?
You would get a little hat tip to the movie.
We go. Thank you.
One more time.
We get a little hat tip to the movie title.
I didn't think it was going to be funny, and then it was. Yeah, excellent stop motion. No, you haven't said the black dude's name, and he's got the best fucking name.
Kincaid. I said his name.
He sounds like a cop with like liver cirrhosis.
Yeah,
he sounds like a porn star from Naughty Office.
It's his last day on the job.
Yeah.
I've only got 4 more days to retirement, and I gotta deal with this dream shit.
I'm too old for this shit.
Stow it, Kincaid.
I'm too awake for this shit.
So I don't have to look at your ugly ass. I love you too.
Oh yeah, when he says like, I don't have to look at your ugly face anymore. Really, he really has a lot of attitude. It's not a mystery why he gets thrown in the quiet box or whatever they fucking call it. But
yeah,
he also has like his own like mantra that is like similar to the Freddy mantra that's different when he's in there. He's not singing the like 1, 2.
Oh yeah,
3. He's like singing a different song. I
one,
didn't really
two,
like absorb
stay
it.
awake. 3, 4.
Yeah.
Stay awake. 4, 5.
Not
Don't go
gonna
to sleep
tonight. I'm gonna be awake. Hey.
This is the part of the movie where all this chaos is happening, and Nancy's like, "Just try the Hypnosil. He's got to work better." And Neil's like, "No," and she's like, "Why don't you just try the Hypnosil?"
He's like,
Maybe
"Don't you
I'll
know
give
those
you
are
a little...
boner pills?" They're all like, "Yeah, true."
Yeah, shit.
Why didn't she just, instead of waiting for the order to come in, why didn't she just share hers?
I don't know, man. The thing is about this that's weird is that even after the kid dies, the kid dies by falling out of the bell tower, and then the next morning, the Dr. Sims, the like sort of like real life she's like the foil of the movie, not the villain. She literally looks Neil dead in the eye and says, Philip's death was a sleepwalking death. Nothing more. Like, that's a real thing that happens. Like, that's like
I don't know if there's like, I didn't look into it, but I can't imagine there's a whole lot of sleeping deaths where you die when you're walking. Like, maybe if you walk into traffic.
Which, you know, people...
Probably some injuries. I mean, I could imagine some injuries. One time I slept walk. My grandparents were staying over, and my mom gave them her room, and I slept walk and put my, like, I went to bed with them, but like feet to head, so like my feet were in their noses.
Okay. You told
I used to sleepwalk. I used to sleepwalk. Yeah, that sounds like you had more to tell, but I don't think you did. I used to sleepwalk all the time.
Yeah, so did I as a kid. My dad tells these stories about like him being all wasted and like waking up in the night, and I'm just like standing at the end of their bed, like I'm like that, like a little kid. And he was watching all these movies at that time, so like he's like, oh,
he's probably freaked out. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god! You're like 1, 2, Freddy's coming. You're like skip roping in his bedroom.
And my name is literally Jason, and I'm small like Chucky. I'm all of the nightmares at the same time.
Nice.
My mom tells me one all the time where they would watch movies on Saturday nights, and I would sleepwalk all through the week, but I would probably go to their room or whatever and see that they weren't there, but I wasn't conscious enough to know what was going on, and I'd like sleepwalk into the basement and like sit on the couch and just watch whatever they were watching. But my mom said, like, we learned very quickly to not try and wake you up. And I was like, why? I was like, if we tried to wake you up, you would lose your mind. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you would just like start screaming and like try and fight us and like run away, and like you would run into like the crawl space, or you'd run into the bathroom and lock the door. And like one time they tried to stop me, and I like started yelling at them like, you're not my parents, you're imposters, you're trying to take my parents away from me. And then like I would like grab shit and try and like fucking attack them with it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Freddy Krueger was probably also coming for me when I was a kid.
Steven, I have a question for you. Yeah. In D&D, do your powers or whatever, your stats or whatever, do they just keep growing infinitely, basically?
I mean, there is a level cap.
There's like a max level in traditional.
Level 20 is traditionally the level cap. You can go beyond with like home rules and stuff, but like by the time you're level 20, you're basically like a god.
There's people that
you can destroy a whole building.
There's a group of people that have a game that's been going for like 35 years, so I imagine that they're not just level 20.
I mean, it might be that he's like really slowly progressing them. They're still level 11.
What I'm saying is, I want to play D&D.
All right.
Do you think that I haven't seen D&D used like this in many other things besides Stranger Things? Do you think that Stranger Things is paying homage to this movie? Because the upside down in Stranger Things before they really knew what it was,
Freddy Krueger elements.
It is kind of played like a dream world before the mystery is sort of unraveled. That it's kind of becomes dumb, but I'm still gonna watch that thing every time they show it. But the first season has so much mystery to it that it almost feels like a dream world. And when I saw this D&D stuff, I was like, yeah. I could see that the showrunners, the creators of Stranger Things, are like heavily inspired by 80s horror because they're like our age.
D&D was also, I mean, it's probably still popular, but it was like popular at that time too, right?
It was created in the 80s.
Yeah.
I have to go to the washroom again, guys. I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, we'll try not to have too much fun without you.
We have to kind of speed it up a bit.
Well, that's what I've been trying to do.
Okay, fair enough.
So we get another cool Freddy scene with what's the TV star? The girl that wants to be a TV star. I forget her name.
I never got her name. It's like
Primetime Bitch.
Basically. Yeah.
But so when she grabs the cigarette butt, I'm like, ew. Why are you smoking a cigarette butt? It was like, oh, she's just lighting it to like burn herself or whatever.
Well, I will say she takes a satisfying drag. She goes. It's funny how much they smoke in this whole movie. There's cigarette use all over this thing, and it's really just like
the 80s.
It's the 80s. They just smoking was so common that it was just in movies and television that much. I wrote that these kids sort of get Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Do you want to move to? Do you want to move forward to the them getting together and going into the dream?
Let's see. So, cool TV thing, cool one-liner or whatever.
My favorite one-liner was,
"My name's Frankie Booger, and I'm coming for your genitalia."
What else do we have?
already say welcome to prime time, bitch.
Yeah, that's the part we just watched.
Yeah. There's one scene where so Nancy they're in group again, and Nancy tells the story of like how Freddy came to be, or like what happened with the parents and stuff, and he's like, our parents burned him alive, and then the doctor guy kind of like nods in agreement. It was like such a weird like choice or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird choices in this. Every line that comes out of heroin addict mouth is like a weird choice.
Taryn.
Yeah. And then the doctor, like, there's one point where like it's where he convinces the other doctor that he's going to give them Hypnosil. And then he looks to Nancy and he's like, I hope you this is how it should have been delivered. I hope you know what you're getting us into. He said, I hope you know what you're getting us into. And then he like walked away and I was like, what the fuck?
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Exactly. It's like, what the fuck? Why? It's like 20 takes and that was the best one? Like, what happened there? But there's a lot of moments like that in this movie where I'm like, they must have chose it for a reason, or they just like everything else was unusable, like a fly went through the lens, or like it was shaky.
I want you to go back and watch this movie and look at Nancy's hand acting when she's talking. It's so fucking like.
Jason, I actually implore you to watch New Nightmare before you watch all the other shitty Freddy movies that come after this one, because like it's so good and she does a really, really good job. Like, she's way
would never
better.
be able to do that. I would never be able to do that. I have to watch them in order.
I do it in order. Got it.
I am going.
Well, then I ask that you don't just wait until we review them just watch them. Just sit down and fucking watch them, man. You got time on your hands.
It's true. I do love Freddy now.
I have a question.
I think about Freddy the way you think about Chucky after this one. Spoilers.
Or maybe you just think about Freddy the way that I think about Freddy. I also like Freddy.
No, I know, but you found a new love for Chucky through these last reviewing these movies and watching the show and getting back into it. I am having that about Fred. Sorry, what were you going to say, Kaylin?
What's up with the holy water?
It's water, it's holy, it's blessed.
Yeah, as soon as I was watching that, I was like, oh no, holy water. Freddy Krueger's only weakness?
Right?
Not being reversed.
Did that ever come up again in any of the other ones?
I don't know. His mom was a nun who got raped by 100 maniacs, which is kind of fucked up and like really fucked up.
That was another one of those moments. Jesus Christ, Kaylin. That was another one of those moments that chilled me to my bone in the way that Chucky putting the real bullets in and making them fight, like psychologically, like
you don't have to really picture much to like feel the coldness of that, because that is like
the way she tells the story.
She accidentally got locked in.
It's the holidays. She gets locked in with the worst maniacs that they had. Is hidden. And when they found her, she was barely alive because of all the things that were done to her. And then when the baby, then she was with child, and the baby that came out of it was a homicidal maniac who murders teenagers, who when gets killed by a bunch of parents, exacts revenge on their kids in their dreams.
I just had like a moment in my mind, you know, when like somebody goes to like an abortion line and starts asking like really pointed questions to like abortion clinics. They should ask the question of Freddy's inception to them.
Yeah.
And be like, all right,
assaulted by 100
hypothetical
maniacs.
situation. A nun gets locked in a room with 100 maniacs.
No, she wasn't a nun at that point. She was probably just.
She was a nun.
Oh, I thought.
Freddy's mom was a nun.
I thought she just worked out. I didn't put together that she was a
but
nun.
But it was
already.
run by nuns.
Yeah, that's
she
true.
would have been a nun.
And then on the tombstone it says her name is Mother whatever, Martha Amanda Krueger.
No, it says Mother of 100 Maniacs.
Why are we stop making jokes about it? It's so bad.
Where's
sorry.
the fucking bourbon?
Yeah, but like, that would be such a funny question to ask. I wonder if anyone's ever thought of that. Hypothetically, a nun gets locked in a room with 100 maniacs.
A couple of years ago on TikTok, there was an account where these girls were really funny about it. That would be a good one for like that kind of brand of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at the idea of rape or abortion or anything. I'm just thinking that asking that question from, a hypothetical question from a movie where it is about a demon man who goes into your dreams and kills you. But that's where we also get the title of Freddy as the son of 100 maniacs, which is like a pretty thick title. Like, I know it's really fucked up, the implications, but it also is like, I feel like they wrote that before they wrote the idea of that scene.
Yeah.
They're like, what if he's the son of 100 maniacs? And then someone was like, what does that even mean, though? And they're like, a whole loony bin raped a nun, maybe? Like, that it seems like a pretty steady like course down to like, and then Freddy was born. Right?
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
And that's why he's crazy, I guess, because he was born out of like violence.
Well, he I don't know which maniac did the thing.
Wait till you watch Dream Master.
Push the boys
through.
It's heavily implied that the worst one of the bunch. But then also there's some metaphysical paranormal stuff happening too, so I think I need more context with the next movies. But this is all I have so far. I've got one movie, and then I've got a movie that's sort of a side story, and then I've got the direct sequel, and those are the first three of this franchise.
Well, I gotta tell you, the fourth one is pretty good. After the fourth one, it's where they realize that, oh, maybe Wes Craven should make his meta movie, because we don't know what the fuck we're doing no more.
Cool. We gotta hurry it up here, boys.
I mean, we gotta sprint to the end.
We kind of covered...
Kalen, son of 100 maniacs, take us home.
That's me. I'm a crazy person, and I've lured a bunch of kids into dreamland. Oh no, their friends coming to try and save them.
The perv friend, yeah, the mute who can't express his horniness without being like, here's a towel.
Well, we already talked about this part. This whole next sequence is them figuring out their powers, and then Joey goes,
okay, just very quick, what are your guys' dream powers?
My dream power my dream power is that I have the ability to actually do horrible things to Freddy in his dreams. So inside the dream I incept...
Freddy doesn't sleep, man.
No, but I'd figure out a way, because it's a power.
You're using the Rick and Morty theory of sticking a thing in his ear, and
sure. And
he's like,
but after I came up with
bitch.
that, I basically realized that that's pretty much the plot of Freddy versus Jason. Only they're inside like Jason's dream, but it's kind of still. Anyway, I would find a way to put Freddy to sleep, and go into his dreams and do messed up things.
Give him your medicine vape.
Yeah, I'd
become the Dream Master before he becomes the Dream Master. Okay.
And then I'd be like, what have I become? And then I become Freaky Booger. That's how Freaky Booger is born. He's the mind freak of the son of 100 maniacs. That's why he's this huge pervert.
You're Frankie Booger.
It's me, Frankie Booger. I'm here to steal your dreams.
And your semen.
What about you, Steven?
Well, I thought about it, and I didn't have a good answer last night when we were first coming up with this question. And then I thought about what I was as a kid and what I was as a teenager. I would have been too scared to have watched these movies up to a certain point as a teenager, but I probably would have been watching these movies as a teenager. And then I'm like, okay, wipe all these movies from your mind, because in this universe, the Freddy Krueger movies don't exist, nor do the Jason movies or the Chucky movies. So I probably would have the ability to turn into all classic Universal movie monsters at any point while I'm fighting Freddy. So Freddy would be like, ah, and then I'd be like, and I would turn into like Dracula and be like, you come to suck my blood, or then I'd be like, and turn into the werewolf and turn into Frankenstein and start punching the shit out of him. I would turn into the old classic Universal monster movie. Monsters.
I like it.
That's cool.
That would be my power. Yeah.
What about you, Kaylin?
My power would be asking irritatingly irrelevant questions that drive people mad and to death.
Just like on this podcast.
Kill him with
Yeah,
his
exactly.
kindness. Yeah. Before you kill me, I have
just one more question.
really long, drawn out
Do you
question.
think that if we actually landed on the moon, it's actually made of cheese?
He's like,
What?
What? Wait,
The moon isn't made of cheese,
it's made of
bitch.
rock. What are you talking about, bitch? Well, just think about it for a second. If they came out,
What if it was
let
made
me
of
take off my
cheese?
speakers
Would you
first.
eat
You're
it?
gonna get blood on them. Just 1 second.
my name's Harry Carey. Okay.
Yo, Freddy, do you fold or do you scrunch?
Fuck. If I had $1 for every time you asked me that when we were working at Boston Pizza, I'd have like $10. In the interest of
if you don't fold, I don't know what the hell your issue is.
there's a discussion to be had, trust me. The thing that I want to tell you guys about here is now we're going to go into a segment I like to call Jason's Theory Corner. But in the interest of speedrunning, it's also the Home Alone of it all. And in the interest,
Do I have to play the two musics over top of each other?
songs. But in the interest of Freddy being kind of meta,
Freda is the lady Freddy, and she's very Swedish.
what
I thought she was Selma
She
Hayek.
has like a glove, but it's like wooden skewers with little cheeses on the end of it.
So I think the Home Alone of it all in this movie can either be two things. It can either be this point where they're learning their powers,
I think that's
or
where it is, yeah.
when they literally go in. I thought it was going to be a final battle involving everybody all going in, because there's a final there's a Final Fantasy moment in this, which is kind of another segment we should do, because Steve hates anything that Steve hates that I say segment. So
I think that anytime you say a Final Fantasy moment, I'm going to add a sound effect that is just like when you take like a healing potion or something.
Yeah.
And,
When they go to that door that goes to like Freddy's lair, when they're in that room with the like hell door open, it reminds
the
me
red room where everything's red. Yeah.
It reminds me of like when you're at the final save in an RPG, more specifically, and you're gonna go fight the last boss.
Yeah.
But
the only thing that would have made it more of a final boss moment is if there was a chest nearby that they opened and a fairy came out and there was like potions and they're like, okay, stocking up on healing.
The thing that I want to say is
supplies.
I kind of realize that the Home Alone of it all could be boiled. The theory part of it is the Home Alone of it all could be boiled down to it just being the third act, but in a lot of cases, it's not always the third act.
I will say the Home Alone of it all is 100% when they're discovering their powers in that room.
Yeah,
because that's when they become the Dream Warriors. They realize that they are Dream Warriors at that point.
But that's also when I realized that, oh my god, like half these people are going to die because he's not going just after random people and they're going to save the randos. He's trying to kill one person to lure all this group in.
But if this movie wasn't called The Dream Warriors, you would realize in that moment, oh, they're becoming Dream Warriors.
And then they would look right into the camera and say,
they go,
anyway, that was all I just speed ran all of my segments in like 1 minute. So you're welcome, Internet.
Good job.
Well, thank you. Almost as good as when the cop and the doctor and the cop father team up to fight Freddy's bones with holy water and a cross.
Yeah. It makes sense. Don't question it. Moving on.
I did like when he tries to steal the cross and the priest is like, "What the hell are you doing?
I just need this cross. Oh, here.
He's like, "I'll give you my driver's license." And then the priest like looks at the driver's license for a very long time, and I was like, "Why is he staring at it for that long?"
There was one time where I was working the door at Freeze, and someone gave me an ID from I don't remember where it was from, but I didn't know where to find the date of birth.
So he was looking for the date of birth? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was looking at it for way too long, and I was like, oh shit, fuck it. Okay, here you go, you're good.
That priest really
and he's
wanted
like,
to know how
the date
old
of
he
birth's
was.
on the back, by the way. I'm like, oh shit, he caught me. But yes, they're fighting. He stabs Nancy. Nancy takes his own hand and stabs him back. We have a
we've also completely like they're fighting Bones at this point, aren't they?
No, the cop and the doctor. Yeah,
we just kind of went over. We moved past that. I'll just very quickly summarize what happened there. They go to see. They find Nancy's dad, who's a drunk cop. They explain.
No, he's a security guard.
He's got very rosy cheeks too.
He's very loaded. He has hit rock bottom. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this shit. He tells them both to fuck off. He's like, "Who's this fucking Neil guy? He's clearly 30 years older than you. Why are you banging this guy?" The subtext.
She's like, "Daddy, I'm not banging him. He's my boss.
He's banging me, and he's my boss. I'm trying to get a raise. It's the 80s." Anyway,
but also we should say, her dad used to be like the chief of police,
right?
And he's now a security guard.
Drunk security guard. But anyway, he's very reluctant. He's drinking through the whole thing. Neil and Nancy go make a phone call. They find out what's happening at the hospital. Chaos is ensuing. They all decide to leave, but first Neil goes back and is like, "My name is Neil, and I'm banging your daughter." He doesn't say that, but it'd be funny if he did. And he convinces...
Now we've met!
Yeah, now we've met. He convinces the dad.
And then he takes his own handcuffs and handcuffs himself. Or no, he handcuffs the dad to the steering wheel. Doesn't he do that?
I think so. He does take the holy water bottle comes from him taking his...
No, he takes the keys. He takes
He takes the keys and the dad goes, "Hey!" And then he takes the liquor and the dad goes, "Hey!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "You stay here." And he goes, "Oh." And then as he's running up to the church, he pours all the liquor out. I wish there was another "Hey!" as he's pouring the liquor out. That would have been so good.
But that's the bottle he uses to get the holy water. He gets the things that he needs from the church. They go to the grave. It's a junkyard, like a car junkyard. That's where the bones are being kept because the dad knows where they took the bones after they burnt Freddy. I don't know why the fuck that this was.
Well, he says I knew that we knew that they would never find his bones in here because they hide it in the trunk of a random car.
But that car, if you look at it, it looked really cool. It looked almost like if Freddy was a car, which was
kind of looked like the first car, or looked like the car from the first movie. Actually.
Yeah, at the end.
I didn't actually consider that.
It had a look. It had a stylized look to it. I noticed. Anyway. They kind of have like a very like the dad keeps kind of trying to leave and
because he doesn't want to deal with the bones. He murdered this guy.
Neil keeps catching him. Freddy's bones come to life. We get a very Army of Darkness skeleton situation.
Yeah, the skeleton's like, "Come on, come on!" And
it was really well done. It looked. It was very much a stop motion moment. The effect of
a lot of people hate this moment, but I like it.
I thought it looked great for that.
It looks pretty good too.
It was fine. I just didn't know Freddy could possess his bones.
Apparently, he can if he's under duress. He can leave the spirit world.
This is when you were saying like the Freddy movies are pretty consistent. I was like, Kaylin, what do you mean by that? Because they are the most inconsistent movies I've ever watched.
Anyway, his skeleton brains Neil with a shovel and throws him into the grave. That's a perfect grave that they were digging to put the bones in. We go back to that's when we go back to the final boss battle.
Mm-hmm. Also, I can't remember if we were talking about it before the episode or if it was during, but Steven, your background picture there, the needle Freddy.
Let's get high.
Oh yeah, we didn't full on mention exactly what happens during that scene.
Or any of the death scenes. Yeah, they're all right. They're pretty good. Like the wheelchair kid, he taunts him with the wheelchair and is trying to essentially mow him down with this big spiky wheelchair. And he's like,
"When you wake up, you're gonna be back in the chair, bitch."
and then this one, he's just like, "Why should we fight?
We could be friends.
Yeah.
Remember when we were friends? Let's get high."
And he pulls out his needle fingers, and she's like, and she's more scared of the drugs than she is of him, which is
relapse.
Pretty cool. I like that idea, and I like that she's like so willing to slice him up with the knives, and she's actually kind of holding her own in that knife fight because he's like swiping at her. She's getting hit, but she's like, like fighting him.
Yeah.
But then as soon as he pulls out the needle fingers, she's like, oh fuck, this guy.
Kryptonite.
Yeah. He knows how to get to me.
Are those the only deaths during this final battle sequence?
I think it's just the wizard and the needles, yeah.
But he does kill her by, like, we get shots of her arms, and there's, like, little, like, mouths, or, like...
Rushes up, yeah.
And he sticks those needles right in her arms, and then it just cuts away, so... And they never talk about it.
No, it does, like,
again.
a crazy, like...
Yeah,
they do, like, this, like, special effect where her veins are all, like, bulging out on her head and stuff, and it looks really, really good, and... as I was watching it, I was like... I was more intrigued, being like, how did they accomplish this? Rather than being like, I was like, how did they do that? I wonder.
They wanted her head to explode, but they didn't have the budget for it.
Yeah, that would have been grosser.
That would have been super gross.
I did also like that it was like an alley, and like he was like, look familiar. Doesn't it look familiar to you? And she was like, yeah, but so do these. Like, let's fucking fight.
She did have that moment earlier with the orderly too, where he comes up to her. He's like, "You want to go to Club Meth? We have all the pharmaceuticals you can get your hands on."
Listen, I got the keys to the fucking kingdom over here.
And the gross part about that's why I thought that this orderly should have done the gross sex stuff.
Yeah, I think that there probably was a version of this script where both of the orderlies got taken into the dream. I absolutely believe this. I don't know if it's true, but like, because one orderly is so shit and gross and bad, and the other orderly is so good and cares about them so much, that there was probably a version where they pull both of those orderlies in, and one of them gets horribly murdered by Freddy, and the other one probably helps them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freddy as the nurse lures the dirtbag orderly, and then like you said, nurse body, Freddy head.
Yeah, and then Lawrence Fishburne would probably just, like, you know, be like, you're not gonna fucking take my kids, not again, like, not these ones, they're mine, they're my friends, and like he would come in and help, and then he would get killed or something, you know, like. Anyway, I'll save my thoughts about that.
I forgot to mention, there's a funny line that Kincaid says at one point where he yells, "Where are you hiding, you burnt face pussy?"
Yeah, I wrote that one down too. I like that.
That is a good one.
Yes, this is where the final battle opens up. So we've moved past this. I'm almost at the end of my notes now.
Yeah.
He reveals during the final battle that his power comes from killing kids and stealing their souls. There's a really cool effect where he moves his shirt, and there's animatronic faces, I assume, that are representative of the people he's killed in this movie. I guess you'd probably have to like stop and look at it, but I imagine that those faces were
and, like,
probably
hold up a photo and be like,
yeah. That's pure speculation, I suppose. Then,
no, I mean, there's this exact amount of faces of the people that have been killed so far, so I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
They get into a situation where they go into a hallway out of this room that's like a hall of mirrors, but it's like a mansion hallway, but has mirrors all over it, and Freddy's trying to pull the remaining kids into the mirrors.
And then we get Joey's superpower.
Yeah, and he screams.
And Freddy's like,
ah! Which is such
my only weakness, loud noises.
Which is such a like end of a kids movie.
Yeah.
Defeat, and then we're lulled into a false sense of security.
I mean, I imagine when they wrote that, they wanted him to be like, yeah! Like at the end of and like all the mirrors shatter, and like Freddy's in the mirror being like, what the fuck? Like it shatters as well, you know? Like that's probably what they wanted, but they could only shatter one mirror.
So during the scuffle with the bones, Nancy's dad gets like piked on like a piece of metal and dies.
Yeah.
So we get a moment after the kid saves the day, Joey saves the day, where he like comes in and he goes, "Nancy, I'm here. I've crossed over.
Daddy.
I'm your daddy. I've crossed over." And they hug, and if you're an idiot, you think that's the end of the movie. If you've never seen a horror movie before or know any horror tropes and are stupid,
but I mean, they are like leaning into the fantasy trope at this point. So you're like, could it be?
I fell for it. I actually fell for it.
You thought that's how the movie was going to end, Kaylin? Come on. The credits roll over them hugging. Yeah. It would have been cool if the credits rolled over them hugging, like, and then Freddy just like
that would be good.
Freddy breaks through, and then the meta horror starts there. That would have been cool. That's what they would do in a Freddy movie nowadays. And then that's when he makes Freddy stab himself.
So Freddy stabs Nancy and then goes after Kristen, and then Nancy jumps on him or something, grabs his hand and makes him stab himself.
Yeah.
We get the funeral scene.
The funeral, and then it's revealed that Neil finds the tombstone that says Amanda Krueger, mother, blah blah blah. And he was like, "Oh," and everybody at home is like, "Oh." And when you were in the bathroom, Steve, and I was telling you, don't have to believe me, but I called this so much earlier in the movie that I called it so early in the movie that I was confused by this. I was like, do we not know this? Anyway, that's pretty much.
I don't like when that happens, where you call something so early that you think it's fact.
Yeah.
And when it's revealed, you're like, yeah. Wait, what? Wait. Like, now I'm confused by the fact that I already knew this. But it's supposed to be a revelation for me.
But then we just kind of we see Neil sleeping soundly with the dream statue.
Little house.
Yeah, and then the lights turn on. And so, like, when the lights turned on, I was like, does this mean that Nancy is like a dream guardian? Is she protecting him?
I heard that there was a version of the ending where that was supposed to be. That's
how I took it, where it's like Freddy might be trying to come for him, but she's now like a weird dream guardian where she's like, I have the powers of dream protector or whatever. I can stop him from coming for you in your dreams, because he's like smiling, right? Like when he goes to sleep, he's already asleep and he's like has a smile on his face, which would indicate to us that he's having a nice dream.
Is she freaky? But Freaky's good guy now, so she's just giving him the old Ghostbusters hello. That's when a ghost gives you a blowjob in an old Gettysburg castle. Anyway, the credits roll. The credits roll, and then we ask each other. Oh, a thing that I forgot to mention is that when he becomes a sinew puppet, I wanted to start a death metal band called, or an 80s hair metal band called Sinew Puppeteer.
You did not forget to mention that. You did mention that already at the beginning.
No, before the show started, though.
Oh.
I think it was, before the show.
I told you, I said, I'm not going to put, I want to bring this up again later. And then I didn't bring it up when we were talking about it and the time had passed. That said, Kaylin, take us home.
I will do just that. One thing I do want to say. So, MPAA, I own a lot of these movies that we watch, and I let the credits play, waiting for that MPAA logo and number to show up so that I can make a note of it. I didn't see it come up at the end of these credits. I'm like, whoa, did I miss something? So I rewound it a little bit and then played it at 1.5 speed. And that Dream Warrior song fucking slaps at 1.5.
Like sped up or slowed down?
Yeah. No, sped up, yeah. And but there was no MPAA number, so I had to do some internet research. I can't 100% guarantee this because it wasn't on my physical copy, but the MPAA number I found was 28532. If any viewers can confirm this, yes.
Right.
But let us conclude today's episode with our final
meeting of the Midnight Society.
of the Freddy Booger, the Freaky Booger Society.
Frankie Booger. I mean, pick your brain and your nose.
Steven, why don't you share your final thoughts with us?
All right. I usually write these down. I did not this time. I think that this movie is perhaps the best.
Oh, dude, I found it. Oh, no, that's
Which
the
one?
year. That's the year. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel that this movie is perhaps the best Freddy movie out of the first two, but I don't know if that's fair because it feels completely different than the second one, which I love for totally different reasons. And the first one, which was the creation of Freddy and the idea of a man in a fedora and a striped sweater that can invade your dreams and kill you there. But I do appreciate it for so many reasons. It gives us the idea of a bunch of teenagers working together and believing each other, where all the other movies don't really have that. Both movies so far, no one believes the kid that's in Nancy in the first one and Jesse in the second one. They're working on their own, essentially. There's like one person who dies as evidence, and then everybody's like, "You're fucking nuts." But then there's people that are like, "All right, I believe you. Just calm down." Whereas this one, it's like a whole group of people who are like, "Why won't anyone believe all of us? We're in a room together, and we can all talk right now to each other." But no one believes it. But it also starts to establish the rules that we become familiarized, or the things that you think of when you think of Freddy. And I know there's like 4 more movies after this where the rules become important, but without this movie, those rules wouldn't have been established. The rules of being able to manipulate a dream while you're in it, the rules of being able to affect Freddy and potentially pull him into reality, all that kind of stuff exists here. I think it's important to the Freddy franchise in a great way, and I think that if they were to ever try to remake a Nightmare movie, this one should be it, even without backstory or anything. Just make a straight up Dream Warriors
That'd be cool.
remake without having the established Freddy lore. Even get the guy who was in the Freddy movie that came out in 2010 that sucked. Just make him Freddy and like a bunch of Dream Warriors kicking the shit out of him. There's one thing we didn't talk about the first movie that was a sort of a deleted segment, and I think they even had a scene that was shot where they established that all of the kids that Freddy killed were the older siblings of these kids, the kids that exist in this movie and in the first movie. And
it's been 6 years in this movie, and Nancy has a little sister or brother, doesn't she?
In this movie?
No, but
in the first movie.
Jesse had a little sister.
Oh.
Anyway, like all I mean to say is that like they have like a timeline that exists, and it's something they could work with, I suppose. But like, you know, it is cool that they're the final Elm Street kids or whatever. And yeah, I don't think that it left as much of an impression on me as the second one did, because the second one has so much metaphor and allegory going on that I'm like, wow, this is like super interesting and cool, and a good commentary on the idea of a certain thing at the time. Whereas this one is just like, how do we bring it back to dreams? We want it to be Dream World. And, you know, it's fun. And that's, I guess, at the end of the day, the most important thing about it is that it is fun. So I say the movie's good, and I say that I give it a pervert hanging over a hellfire waiting for Frankie Booger to come up and be like, what's going on here? That's my ranking.
What about what went well?
What went well? Well, what went well, obviously, is like they established that this group of kids all identify Freddy. They all realize they can go into a dream together because they have a dream, I don't know, like superpowered dream person who's like, now we're all in the same dream. That's very cool. I like that they all establish superpowers. But what could have been better is that they should have pulled in people that they trusted, like out of their own. You know, in like The Shining, when Danny is like calls Scatman Carruthers to come to the hotel to help him and stuff, like that kind of shit. Where like if she's sleeping and she knows that Max is a person that they trust and will do anything to protect, like why can't she pull him in? And why can't she pull in, you know, like maybe she pulls in that other orderly as well. Maybe there's a scene in the movie where he's like very kind to her specifically, and then she pulls him in, and then he tries to fuck with Knife Girl in the dream world, and then she kills him in the dream world, and in real life he's like, ah, and like it's like established like, holy shit, you can kill someone in the dream world as well, not just Freddy.
That's cool.
Like that kind of stuff might be cool as well, right? So like I feel like they did a lot with the rules of the dream realm, but they could have done some more with it, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Jason, would you do us the honor?
What went well? The kills. Even more kills. No, that's even better. More kills. Essentially what I mean by that is that for me the practical effects of the kills were so good. I wish that there were, I wanted to see like more elaborate kills, like not the kills being more elaborate, but I wanted to see more of it. But it's obvious that the budget was spent where it was spent. But I when there's a lot of expositional like bits that weren't like boring, but like say less, more kills. My caveman brain was like, less talk, more death. Also Nancy was wooden as fuck. Moving on. I don't know why, every time Nancy was talking I had a cringe response. Just the way that she chose. She was painted up really weird, like I think she was supposed to be made to look older. Yeah, she was, but she still had very kind, like young features, but with just like 80s makeup all over it. Her whole relationship and the big hair. She kind of looked like a Claudia Schiffer, or who was that supermodel from the early 90s?
Farrah Fawcett. No,
from the after that.
Slappy Slockett.
Yeah, Slappy Slockett. Not Claudia Schiffer, but supermodel. No, it's RuPaul. This movie fucking rules. Compared to all the other 10 movies we've done, this one has the best kills, special effects, plot, and moves the story of Freddy along the best, setting the precedent for the rest of the series. It doesn't feel like the third in a series or a jacked up sequel like I always compare. Like I've been comparing with like Ninja Turtles 2 or even like Chucky and Jason 3, which were very much like, here's all of our ideas boiled down to one awesome thing. This felt very organic compared to those even. It feels like a direct sequel, and they got everything right. He's not quite a cartoon character yet, but all of his kills are funny and related to the person and are very much enjoyably dark. And I said to Kaylin also while you were away that like he kind of Willy Wonka's all the kids. Like he kind of gives them a taste of their own medicine in a lot of ways.
Do you want a fizzy lifting drink?
Eat this everlasting gobstopper. The practical effects are top notch, but the few times they're animated, I wrote digital or animated, so I'm just going to say or animated. They also look great for the era. The sound design and the music also stand out to create a pressure of suspense, which is a concept that I've just invented when I wrote this. The pressure of suspense is sort of not just feeling the suspense happen, but like feeling the weight of the suspense like hitting you in a more purposeful way. Like not just like this is suspenseful to be suspenseful. I'm just trying to explain what I mean by the pressure of suspense.
I know, but it just sounds like you're just
I'm describing suspense. Okay. Okay. It made more sense. I thought I was going to be more.
It's like suspense, but it's like more suspenseful. If you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. I thought it was going to be more revelatory.
Poignant.
More poignant. Thank you. I love the title track. Dream Warriors is great, but Into the Fire is one of my favorite fucking songs of all time. It's such a good tune. If you haven't watched the music video for it, it's the most 80s shit. I put it in the chat last night. I don't know if you guys actually watched the video for it, but it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's why the mom got mad. She came in and she's like, "This is a poison household."
Yeah, we listen to Dio.
Yeah.
My only real qualms are the wooden acting from Nancy, but also Patricia Arquette was a little bit on the fence with her over-the-top screeches, as we sort of determined that her screams were. And she's just
screams, they're screeches.
She just kind of rubs me the wrong way too. But the rest were fine, and some were even good. I really like Neil and Philip's performances. Philip actually stood out to me because he was like, "You guys aren't getting it, man. He's inside our heads, man.
You don't even understand."
Yeah. He had one of the best deaths in the movie too. So when
he first sits up with he has this face that is it's almost like a smile, but it's like a horrified, I'm in pain face.
Yeah, I agree. I loved that whole sequence was awesome. And then Freddy up in the sky, being the puppet master, so cool. I understand why people hold this movie in such high regard and fully regret not seeing it years ago. I could have probably handled this movie from about age 25 on, and with no real problem, with no real
25.
Yeah,
it's so old.
I know. I had problems with suspense and horror and gore until The Walking Dead season 2.
Well, I think that you only had problems with the pressure of suspense.
It's the pressure of suspense.
It wasn't suspense.
Does it make a little bit more? Does it make a little bit more sense when you kind of compartmentalize?
No, because that's what suspense is. No.
Listen, pressure of suspense. It's a trope for the show now. It's not.
I'm gonna make a sound that's just like a pipe about to burst,
the pressure of suspense in your fucking that voice you do. I understand. Yeah, many years earlier, I give this an easy 4 to 5. Easy peasy sneezy. I also give this movie a spectacular and ironic kill for every teen trope in existence. And a good way to find out all of those tropes is watch the hit comedy Not Another Teen Movie, but Freddy just kills them in all of those ways. And that has been my review for, hey, did you see this movie? It's called The Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3.
It's called A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I know. Actually, it's funny that you say that because I had to keep putting when I was writing our social media stuff, and also I've been fighting all day trying to figure out, because it's Friday the 13th Part 3. That's the name of the movie, but sometimes this movie is called Friday the 13th Part 3. Sometimes this movie is called Friday the 13th 3 Dream Warriors, not the Dream Warriors. And then when I was looking for the MPAA rating just a minute ago, that's why I was distracted. I was like, hey, I got it.
I'm just looking at Kalen's face to wonder when he's going to figure out that you're saying Friday the 13th instead of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
A Nightmare. I was watching the end of A Nightmare on Elm Street just a second ago to see what the MPAA rating was. I'm sorry I misspoke.
Friday on Elm Street.
A Day on Elm Street. At the end of the credits, it says A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. So what's the name of this movie, guys? Anyway.
I mean, honestly, doesn't matter. Toot sweet, that's what we say. That's what we say around here.
Toot sweet.
Toot sweet, baby.
Kalen, take us home, buddy.
This was another solid addition to the franchise. So I mentioned earlier that this one feels the most consistent of the Grimoires that we've covered so far. And I think my reasoning behind that was, so one, knowing what next week's movie is and how it's a total tangent from the first two. And with Friday, how it was mother, bagman, and then what we, know Jason to be kind of thing. And then also with Chucky, where the first two were kind of more adult, and then the third one was kind of like young adult. I think that's where my mindset was when I was thinking that this one feels more consistent. I thought the pacing was great. The lighting was great. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I always prefer practical effects. And as Jason has said before, chef's kiss. What went well? Freddy's swagger. Even better. there's two scenes. There's one at the beginning with the little girl, and then one with Kristen where she gets like thrown aside, and they're both obviously dolls.
Yeah, I forgot to. I was going to mention that. Oh my god!
Like, I'm sure there is there's got to either do it.
One of them's a skeleton doll. Remember when she looks down and she's like,
or she's a skeleton doll though when she's running with her. Like,
it's clearly a doll.
Yeah,
probably because a human weighs way more than a doll. Like,
also she's sprinting down a hallway. You don't have a child.
Yeah, no, I know, but then
how many times did she drop the real child before they were like, "We got to get a doll for this"? Oh my god!
Or do better camera angles or something. Like, it was just, I was like, that was my one even better that really stuck out for me. There's a few little things you can nitpick, but that was the main one. Add this to the collection because it is a buy, and I give it The Son of 100 Maniacs, although that is now kind of ruined because we said it a bunch already.
That's terrible. No.
I know it's terrible. I felt bad, and I couldn't think of anything on the spot, so I just went with what I already had.
I think this movie, just as my final pressure suspense thought, I think that this movie stands on its own, even though it's a sequel. I think if you just watched this, they give you enough explanation of the past. They give you enough of...
No.
I agree with Jason.
I don't.
Present your retort then.
I'm the king of people of having to watch every movie in sequence. I'm saying if somebody was like watching...
Who's Nancy? Why is that house important? Why does that house keep coming up? Who's Freddy?
Context.
Why does Freddy intrigued by Nancy?
It's not that deep, man. My point.
I think it's deep enough that you need to have seen the first one to understand a lot of shit that's happening in this movie.
If somebody threw me into this movie, I would get enough out of it.
What does it mean by them being the final children of Elm Street?
Never mind. You win. I'm wrong and you're right. Sorry.
All right, Jason, I'm sorry. You can continue.
All I'm saying is that as a movie, I think even though it's a sequel, it stands on its own. It's a fun movie to watch.
It holds.
But if I showed you this movie without you having seen even the first one, would you be inclined to give it that?
I would prefer to have seen the first. I just think that this movie is fine to watch on its own as a cool... In this, I do sort of have the subtext that you know who Freddy is. Let me rephrase. If you know who Freddy is, you can probably watch this movie on its own and you'll enjoy it.
All right.
I think that's a good way to put it.
I'll give it a new rating then. If you can dream it, you can achieve it.
Okay.
That's my new rating.
Cue the necktie to myself.
Well, for Jason and Steven.
For Steven and Kaylin. I'm Jason. Oh, you didn't see it?
No, because you interrupted me.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring the podcast down so hard.
Steve broke my brain.
Jason's like,
I was being fun and whimsical, and Steve was like, nah. You're wrong.
Fuck you.
Well, what do you mean? You're going to watch this movie without seeing the other two first? Holy shit.
You definitely don't need the second movie to watch this. You definitely do not. And
you don't need the second movie.
I think if you know I think if you know that A Nightmare Happened on Elm Street, you're fine to watch this movie. I just think it's a good movie. The first two are the second one is, I like it for not the reasons that maybe the filmmakers intended.
I feel like if you're going on a date and you take someone to see this movie and you've seen the movie and your date hasn't, you could still competently talk about the movie afterwards to your date if you go out to like dinner or something afterwards.
If I took a date to this in 1988, I'm looking for that popcorn job, so...
You get pimples. Think about the butter.
Hey, it's me, Frankie Booger, trying to get your movies here.
And for Kaylin and for Steven, I'm Jason.
And for Jason and Steven, I'm Kellen.
For Kaylin, for Jason, I am Steven.
And we just gotta ask you one thing.
Oh my god, Batman.
Oh, wait, no. I figured out. So I'm gonna change my thing. I give this movie a...
Oh, what a rush.
Oh God, it's still Batman.
Why am I horny?
But we gotta ask you one thing.
Hey, did you see this one? Hey, did you see this one, bitch?
Hey, did you see this one, bitch?
That's all, folks.
Copyright stricken for that,
Bitch.
I don't think you sang it in tune, so you should be fine.
Oh, thanks. I tried really hard to sing it out of tune.
Almost as hard as that Freddy penis worm.
It's not a worm, it's a snake. And it was a dick, and then they turned it not into a dick, and that's how the movie got made.
That's how they got the PG-13. Actually, I don't know what this is. Probably R, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they got PG squirt teen.